Good evening and welcome to the April 26, 2022 meeting of the Planning and Zoning Commission. I'd like to call this meeting to order. Before we start, anybody on the commission have any conflict of interest? If so, all right. I need a motion to approve the minutes.
Commissioner Guerrero, I'll approve the minutes.
I'll second.
Becky, please.
Board Member Kaiser?
Yes.
Board Member Smith?
Yes.
Board Member Bennett?
Yes.
Board Member Vega?
I wasn't here, I abstain.
Thank you. Board Member Guerrero?
Yes.
Chair Gordon?
Yes. All right, before we get to public participation, I would like to reorder the agenda for this evening. Item 9.1, which is the progress report on the Land Development Code. I'd like to move that to now before public participation. Can I get a motion on that, please?
I make a motion to move 9.1 to now.
A second?
Board Member Kaiser?
Yes.
Board Member Smith?
Yes.
Board Member Bennett?
Yes.
Board Member Vega?
Yes.
Board Member Guerrero?
Yes.
Chair Gordon?
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, Catherine?
Good evening, members of the commission. Let me go ahead and get this opened up for you. So this is just an update to let everyone know where we are in terms of realized loss cruises, our code update. We've had several of these discussions before. Ultimately, this is a three-phase project. We're now about midway point through the second phase, which is the actual drafting of the code sections. We do have our consultant here to go through some of the highlights of those. That is Karen Perez, who is from Fries and Nichols. We also have Erica Craycraft and hopefully Don Warwick available via phone. They weren't unable to attend in person, but we do have Karen here. And so with that, I'll go ahead and turn it over to Karen, and she can talk about the highlights about where we are and some of the points and exciting things that we're drafting in the code.
All right, good evening.
Good evening. Thank you all for moving this up on the agenda. You look like you have a full agenda, so I'm going to do the turbo version of this, leave your extra room for questions, and we'll go from there. So, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, I am Karen Perez. She introduced me. I work for Fries and Nichols. We've got my colleagues on the phone. This is the midpoint review, so we're about halfway through phase 2. See if I can get this through. There's pictures of all of us, just in case you're curious, and we'll keep on going. So the agenda is just to go through the code update process overview, go through the design standards draft highlights. That seems to be the most interesting part. Talk about our next steps and go into discussion and questions and answers. So if you all remember from the last, some of you were here, I think, for the last update, we had a major review of the zoning maps, subdivisions, design standards, drainage and flood control, and signs. That's the focus of the effort. However, the outdoor lighting, historic preservation, cross-connection control, and excavations and curb cuts are kind of the ancillary parts of those, so we also hit those in the update. The update process was phase 1, which was the diagnostic evaluation. We go through the code. It's to understand the code itself, hear from the people who most frequently use the code, although we did open it up for public input, and we have that on our website as well, but just to make sure that we're addressing the things that either need to be improved or maintained. The phase ended with the development of the code diagnostic, which talks about the code updates, and we presented this, I think it was almost, 9 months ago, so in August of last year, that code diagnostic. I'm going to have to go back if I can remember how to do that. Phase 2 is where we are right now. Sorry, I'm skipping around a lot, but I'm going to skip that whole section. In phase 2, we're going through the actual draft sections of the report. So we're in the middle of that right now. What we do is we work with the staff on reviewing the individual parts of the code. We get their input, we put in all of those comments, then we're going to put it out for comments from everybody. So you've got a good, clean copy to work with. You know that you have your staff and your city recommendations that are represented. So this is all developed on the Elevate Las Cruces that gave us our guidelines. And what we were putting into the code, we had over 200 recommendations in that code that relate to the code update. So we're going back to the Elevate and looking at those recommendations and trying to get those implemented. The code user interviews, and again, we got a little confused with code users and stakeholders. The code users, we called them that because they're the people who use it all the time. They fill out the forms, they come in, they address all of you, they get their cases approved, and that involves utilities and home builders and engineers and architects and all of the people who are involved with development in the area. But we also reached out to other community groups, the people who were active on the Elevate Las Cruces, and got input, clarifications on some of the things in the Elevate that we had questions on for the implementation. We had open houses, unfortunately online because it was on COVID, but we did get a lot of comments, and those comments are still posted, and the realizelascruces.com is still up and available for comments on the website. So going from there, code and map development is where we are in phase 2. Phase 3 will be the refinement and the adoption that we're looking at March of next year to be done. So end of the summer for the beginning of the draft comments in that comment phase, we'll implement those comments, address them, and then we'll adopt it in the spring. So we're well on our way. We got a lot to work with. So today we wanted to share the design standards because that's what we're right in the middle of. So we have these sections, lot design, as listed out right here. So I won't read through them. There's 9 subsections that relate to the physical improvement of the land. So starting with roads and cross-sections of and rights-of-ways, we updated the cross-sections to implement the complete streets and Elevate and the active transportation plan. So all of those have been put into a cross-section. This is a sample of it, but you can see it's got the streets, the medians, some treescape, your multi-use paths, bike lanes, and whether or not we do the elevated sections of the sidewalk is going to depend on the application and places where we'll see that implemented. Campo here is probably a good example. But there'll be shared use and paths and bike lanes per the active transportation plan and NACTO recommendations. And that is primarily for new construction or revisions to existing. Roads and rights-of-ways. So one of the other things, a big section that we had a lot of comments on was on traffic impact analysis. So one of the things we wanted to do was go through and look at TIA triggers. When are you going to ask for a traffic impact analysis? What is the timing? What is the criteria? We're trying to make that very concrete. I think the impression of the feedback we got is it was somewhat subjective. And we want to make sure that we are able to pinpoint some of those triggers and timing, and it's not such a confusing thing, or the perception's not there that it's in any way subjective. We've also updated or proposed to update the maximum block lengths for walkability. So blocks are shorter in the urban area, longer in the rural area. We've updated the clear sight triangle requirements. We had a lot of comments yesterday from council on clear sight triangles. If you have a question on it, I'll answer that at the end. They don't dovetail with the AASHTO requirements, which is the standard, the national standard. So we're updating that and just making sure that it aligns with the national standards. They're not being really changed in any substantive way. Subdivision access points and connectivity, again, this goes back to Elevate. We added the requirement for the number of the access points for larger subdivisions beyond the minimum 2 access points, which are required under the fire code, and added a connectivity index requirement for new subdivisions to encourage that interconnectedness and walkability. Drainage flood control and erosion, also really popular topics. We're looking at, and this first one applies primarily to annexed areas, not the in the city. There was never that impact on the downstream properties. It wasn't the water on, water off that was part of the county development in some of the rural areas. So we're looking at some of the annexed areas, some of the areas where we have development that may impact that downstream. So we're tightening up those requirements. Maintenance of private drainage systems, setting up a system for that, making sure that they are inspected on a routine basis, that the city has a way to track it, call out codes if there are issues, so we don't get those large ponding areas filling in with sediment trash, that the vegetation is maintained, that the structures are there, they're not clogged or collapsed. So utilities and flood zones, my personal favorite is putting sewer systems in arroyos where you got the manholes popping up after a while. Those will be tightened up as well. That is a practice we should discourage. And slope and pond vegetation. This aligns with the Elevate as well, making sure that instead of using hardscape, that we're using vegetation and other methods to retain slopes and minimize erosion. So using those natural means. And of course, with desert appropriate landscaping that doesn't waste water. Also looking at hillside development. There weren't a lot of standards in place, so we've implemented or proposed in draft some mechanisms or some requirements for hillside development that are specific for this area. Encroachment on floodways, making sure that the FEMA, the letter of map revision, has been filed before any kind of proposed encroachment is reviewed. Propose some buffers. These are related back to watershed size. And I know this will be a popular topic for discussion. There's a lot of varying opinions on whether or not the buffers, the building close to arroyos, is appropriate. And so there's a mechanism for proposing the bigger the watershed, the bigger the area, the bigger the buffer, knowing that more water will be coming down and eroding it. Again, I know there will be a lot of discussion on that. We're ready to talk about it and see if we can come up with a compromise to discourage people from building right up to the edge of the arroyos. So that'll be in the final draft for comment. The last part is dust control, both enforcement and planning. There are permits for this, and contractors are pretty good. We were looking more on the Elevate side of what is a way to discourage, one, a stripping vegetation, because it keeps the dust down, so trying to develop in phases, and also trying to use alternative mechanisms. I said gorilla snot in public yesterday, and I think I shocked some people, but it's a non-water-based dust suppression that's a glycerin natural substance, but it keeps dust control down, and it minimizes the use of water for dust control. Even non-potable water is just not a great practice for this area. So there are some proposals there, and we'll be looking forward to comments on that as well. Parks and trails, looking at the Parkland dedication for development with new lots or dwelling units. That system has been evaluated, and we've got some new proposals for that dedication. Trail dedication for new development where proposed trails are shown on the active transportation plan, and the criteria and the procedures for those dedications, credits, things that are associated with that practice. Landscaping and screening. There are requirements for perimeter landscaping and interior parking islands for large parking lots. Right now, half of the landscaping can be in front. Some of it is on public right-of-way, which is not necessarily a common practice. So the new standard proposes keeping that landscaping on the property itself, doing the whole perimeter, and then getting those islands in to break up the parking spaces. And you'll see that in some of the new development here, they've done that practice, and it actually is really, really attractive and does break up the big, I think they call it the sea of parking. So street trees would be required in the parkway or on the adjacent property if there is no parking, if there is no parkway associated with that. So working on the street tree standards, that's on collector and arterial streets. I want to make sure I get this right. And it supports the city's Cool Corridors initiative. And before I forget something, I'll go back to the roads. We have not forgotten about the new street standard that just came into my head and left. That was just about the complete streets. Those are also to be integrated, and we are aware that that was recently passed. And I forgot to say that. I said street, and it came back. Tree preservation. This is one of the examples that came up yesterday with council is the Las Cruces Country Club property. So when we're talking about tree preservation, we're looking at areas like that where we're discouraging either requiring replacement or a fee to remove the trees that are larger than 2 inches. So if they're an established tree, the director can give an exception for a heavily treed lot, but we're trying to encourage a removal permit for large trees so that we have a chance to save the trees on these properties. Also evaluating damage protections for existing trees, construction, lighting, cameras. Those are some of those. The other thing that's in there is a fee in lieu that the city could use for planting trees elsewhere. So if you have to clear an area, then they would pay a fee and new trees would be established. So trying to keep that tree count balanced across the city. Signs. Signs are always fun to talk about. There's a court case, Reed versus Gilbert. There's some case law in 2015 that prohibits cities from regulating signs based on their content. And an example that was given was signs like real estate signs or on and off premise signs that aren't recommended to use that in codes anymore because you need to read the sign to see how to regulate them. So that's just not a really great way of doing sign control. Large billboards are hard to get rid of, much as not everybody likes them, but they're going to need to meet a certain dimensional requirement. I think the maximum is the 50 to 200 square feet that is in there. Also expecting some very robust discussion on signage. We're also encouraging or recommending a common signage plan for multi-tenant lots. If you have a bunch of them, you have the one main sign and it has all the businesses listing and some consistency across the property. It's just looks nicer and it minimizes the number of signs, which are also a visual hazard if you're ducking around signs or trying to see around signs to get out on the street. So if those signs are there, the recommendations is that there's a 15% bonus in the maximum sign because there's multiple signs within a sign, if that makes sense. So definitely coming up with some recommendations there. So the code users and stakeholders. So right now, we're primarily working with city staff, again, to make sure that we align with all of the plans, with the planning department, with the recommendations of the city council, P&Z. Once that's complete, the drafts will be shared on the website, and we're looking at August, September before those drafts will come up. They'll be cleaned up. We've got the recommendations, anything that doesn't, legal review and those other things. There's also a technical advisory group, a working committee that the mayor has proposed, and I'll let staff give you details on that if anyone has questions. It's an additional group that will be doing a review, and it consists of a pretty wide variety of people in addition to the stakeholder outreach we've already done. And then community-wide input's going to be requested once there's a complete draft in the fall of 2022. There'll be lots of opportunities, online opportunities, and meetings. And I don't think I breathed, and I probably whizzed through some important things, but I know you got a lot to do tonight. Is there any questions or clarifications or something that came up that you went, anyone make
Thank you very much. Is there any members of the commission have any questions, comments? Commissioner Kaiser?
Just a couple of comments. First, I appreciate the update. This was very informative. especially some of the examples of the work that you're doing. Going back to the road cross-sections, I know there's been a lot of discussion around that and the complete streets and things like that, but are you looking at all at doing something similar for intersections?
I'm going to defer to my colleagues on that. I wasn't the road person. Dawn? Erica?
Hey, yes. Good
Thank you.
evening, Commissioners. My name is Erica Craycraft with Reese and Nichols. And Commissioner, could I ask you to clarify your question just a bit about the intersections?
Yeah, certainly. So you're putting forward example road cross sections that would be appropriate under the new code. So my question is, are you doing something similar for intersections? And I'll just be blunt, because the intersections in the city are incredibly dangerous, and we've completely failed in that regard. I mean, you just look at the new go-bond trails. I mean, none of the intersection crossings where the trail crossed a road were even addressed. And so I would like to see that aspect of the complete streets be implemented here.
Okay. Thank you for the clarification. Yes, we will be addressing that through a number of different sections. One would be the clear sight triangle that was mentioned in the presentation, just making sure that there's better visibility at intersections for better safety. Also, the traffic impact analysis section will be looking at turn lanes, for example, and then also you mentioned the trail crossings. I don't think we have anything specific for that right now, but we can certainly be sure to take a look at that.
Thank you for that clarification, and I'll just make a recommendation that you look beyond just the sight lines and traffic impact. If you look at NACTO, the urban street guidelines, I mean, this is where the conflict happens most of the time, is at intersections. And it's more than just cars being able to see other cars. It's pedestrian, cyclist safety as well. So just something that I would hope you guys take into consideration when you're addressing the streets. The other question that I have, somewhat related, is there going to be any unpacking of parking requirements as part of the development standards or the design standards?
Yes, we'll be reviewing all of the parking requirements.
Okay, that's good to know. And I think my last comment / question for now is on the landscaping. You mentioned the idea of having street tree requirements for development. However, you said that was going to be restricted to collector or arterial. I'm just wondering what the explanation is there for stopping at those two classifications and not going all the way down to the local designation, which is the vast majority of our road network.
Sure. The reason that we are looking primarily at collector and arterial roadways is because those are largely the commercial or the subdivision exterior corridors rather than a typical single-family lot. But if that's something that you think would be more appropriate to also extend to the local street network, we can look at that as well.
I would strongly encourage it. I mean, the urban heat island doesn't stop at the entrance to a subdivision. And, you know, if you have a subdivision of 600 homes and you're not planting street trees, I mean, it's great that you put a street tree on the collector and arterial road, but I mean, where people live and go home at the end of the day and enjoy their neighborhood, I think this would be a tremendous benefit. So I would strongly encourage you to take a look at that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else on the commission?
Mr. Chair, if I may.
Okay.
Larry Nicholas, Community Development Director, for the record. Oftentimes people ask us why have we undertaken this update and review of the zoning code or the land use code. 2 years ago, we took on a review of our comprehensive plan, which had not been reviewed for about 8 or 10 years. The zoning code that we're speaking about tonight has not been updated in about 17 years. We all know that many things have changed in terms of planning and how our city is growing and the components we want to see in our streets, our landscape, our parking, and our zoning. So this is the endeavor. It's going to take about 18 to 20 months. As was presented tonight, we're about halfway through that. But we wanted to present an update to the commission and to the viewing audience of where we are at this point. Thank you.
Thank you. My only comment is I'm just very happy to hear that the commissioner, the mayor, has decided to form a committee to help and support the formation of these plans. I'm hoping that someone from the city council will appoint someone from the Planning and Zoning Commission. We have not had the opportunity at this point to actually give our input. And I know from looking at the schedule, we will not have that opportunity till sometime in the fall. And it would be nice if we could address some of the concerns that we have, that we deal with at every case, that we could forestall, having to wait till then to give our suggestions and maybe have it put into this process. But I think you're on schedule, and I'm glad to hear that. And I'm looking forward to have this revision done. It's been a long time, and I'm sure it'll be very helpful to the commission and people who are planning to do things here in the city. And thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. And I'd just like to add, when we started out this process, we interviewed groups of people. We did 2 weeks, I think, straight of phone interviews and in-person interviews as well as we were able at that time. At that point, we did invite members of that current Planning and Zoning Commission, which I realize is a group of people old, and we weren't able to, unfortunately, schedule it and get the input we wanted. So we'll be looking forward to having a similar process prior to the open public input with Planning and Zoning. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Is there anything else? Great. We appreciate your coming.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
And thanks again for moving me up.
Okay, let's move on. The next item on the agenda is public participation. Is there anyone here needs to talk about anything that is not on the agenda? Will you please raise your hand? All right, seeing none, and we can move on. There are no postponements. We move to the consent agenda. Is there anyone here who wishes to speak or have an item to talk about on the consent? Please raise your hand. Seeing none, anybody from the commission? I'm sorry, I didn't see you. Come forward, please.
All right, I'd like to...
Excuse me, would you please state your name for the record and let me swear you in?
All right, Kevin Moore.
All right. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth and nothing but the truth under penalty of law?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead, thank you.
I'd like to see the proposal for the Redhawk Central presentation.
Could you just let me interrupt? Could you please try to speak into the microphone?
I'm sorry.
It's
How about
okay.
now? Can you hear me now? All right, I'd like to see the presentation on the Redhawk Central presentation.
All right, we can do that. John, you're going to do that?
Point of order, Mr. Chair. We do need to vote to remove that from the consent agenda. It will then be placed as the first item on new business. And then you all can vote to approve the remainder of the consent agenda before that's heard.
All right, thank you for reminding me. All right, then I do need a motion to move item 6.1 to new business.
Just one quick question. Do we have to pull and vote on each specific consent agenda item, or can we pull multiple at the same time?
You can pull multiple at the same time.
Thank you. So I would also like to pull item 6.2 I have a couple of questions for staff. I hope it will be relatively quick, but would like to pull that one as well.
All right, fine, then I guess I will need two motions, one on 6.1 and one on 6.2. First on 6.1, to move it to new business.
I'll make a motion to remove item 6.1 from the consent agenda.
And I second that motion.
Board Member Kaiser?
Yes.
Board Member Smith?
Yes.
Board Member Bennett?
Oh, sorry.
Yes.
Thank you. Board Member Vega?
Yes.
Board Member Guerrero?
Yes.
Chair Gordon?
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, then I'll need a motion to move item 6.2 to new business.
I'll motion to remove item 6.2 from the consent agenda.
I'll second.
Board Member Kaiser?
Yes.
Board Member Smith?
Yes.
Board Member Bennett?
Yes.
Board Member Vega?
Yes.
Board Member Guerrero?
Yes.
Chair Gordon?
Yes.
Thank you.
Is there anyone who has interest in item 6.3, the Telshire Boulevard suite, that wishes to have this pulled from the consent agenda? All right, seeing none, we'll just deal with these two items then. All right, then I guess, John, could you do a presentation on 6.1?
Point of order, you do need to approve the remaining item on the consent agenda, and the two items that were pulled then now begin at new business, and then there's old business prior to that.
Yeah. All right, then I guess I need another motion to approve item 6.3.
I make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll second it.
Board Member Kaiser?
Yes.
Board Member Smith?
Yes.
Board Member Bennett?
Yes.
Board Member Vega?
Yes.
Board Member Guerrero?
Yes.
Chairman Gordon?
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, then in that case, we move to old business, which is items 7.1 and 7.2, the Camino Hill Subdivision Master Plan.
Members of the commission, Catherine Harrison Rogers for the record. I do want to point out this was not listed on postponements, but we were unable to receive certain items that would have fulfilled conditions of approval for these two items as per the requirement of the Development Review Committee. As such, staff is requesting that these two particular items be postponed to a date certain, which does require a vote of this commission, and that would be for the regular meeting in May.
Do we know what the date of the next P&Z meeting is in May?
That's correct. And I believe that that is the 28th, if I'm correct. Let me check this calendar. The 24th, excuse me.
24th?
Yes.
Okay. All right, then I do need a motion then to remove from old business items 7.1 and 7.2 to a date certain of May the 14th, 22, to be placed on the agenda.
May the 24th, sir. Not the 14th, the 24th.
Did I say the 24th? I stand corrected. I thought the 24th.
I make a motion to move items 7.1 and 7.2 to the May 24th agenda.
I'll second it.
Board Member Kaiser?
Yes.
Board Member Smith?
Yes.
Board Member Bennett?
Yes.
Board Member Vega?
Yes.
Board Member Guerrero?
Yes.
Chair Gordon?
Yes. and
Thank
I'll
you.
Get a new pair of glasses. All right, then I guess we have to go back now to item 6.1, the Redhawk Central Final Site Plan.
Good evening, Commission. Tonight, my name is John Castillo. I'm a planner with the City of Las Cruces. Tonight, I'll be presenting the Redhawk Central Final Site Plan. Current conditions of the property, it's currently a vacant lot that's approximately 7 acres. It's currently zoned U5a, which is a mixed-use center. It's located on the northeast corner of Central Avenue and Redhawk Road, and it's associated with the Metro Verde South PUD. As you can see on the zoning map, this is the PUD zoning classification for it. Here's an aerial map showing the relation to it. So today, the developer is going to propose 49 single-family residential lots. 2 lots will be proposed for commercial. It's going to have connectivity through two interior roadways, one off of Redhawk Golf Road, and the other off of Central Avenue. In between that, there is also an alleyway that will connect to Central and one of the interior roadways. It does meet all of the requirements of the subdivision code, design standards, and the 2001 zoning code, as well as the PUD guidelines set forth in the Metro Verde South. From these pictures, this is the U5a Mixed Use Zoning. It does allow for various developments such as commercial uses, as well as townhouses, apartment complexes. Here's kind of the lot layout of exactly what's going to be looking at. Central Road does have, is considered a 68-foot right-of-way. At this time, there was no at this time, reviews were sent to all relevant agencies. Discussions did take place at the DRC on April 6, 2022, and it was given a recommendation of approval. Notices were sent out to the surrounding properties. We did have a phone call regarding discussions of what a PUD was and kind of general zoning designations and what would be developed on the property. Staff is recommending right now approval based on the following findings, which Redhawk Central final site plan conforms to the Metro Verde South PUD concept plan. The proposed final site plan is all part of the development that balances benefits to the community with the developer's interests, and it has its recommended approval from the DRC on April 6th. Today's options are to vote yes to approve, to vote no to deny, vote yes with condition, or vote to table.
All right, thank you, John. Is there anybody from the commission who has any questions or comments? Is the petitioner here, John?
Yes, we do have Mr. Moscato, who's the developer, who's representing.
Does he have any comments or questions or statements? Evening, John. Would you please state your name and let me swear you in, please?
John Moscato.
Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth and nothing but the truth on the penalty of law?
Yes.
Go ahead, John. Thank you.
I don't have anything to add, but I'd be happy to answer any questions that the commission has.
I don't think there are any, in which case you're available if we have someone from the audience, I believe, has some questions.
Thank you.
Okay. Is that gentleman still here? You want to come back, please? Okay, so we already swore you in. Just repeat your name for the record.
Kevin Moore.
All right, Mr. Moore, go ahead. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm interested on, is that also going to, you talked about it's going to be multiple family units, so are we talking multiple stories? Whereabouts and the locations are those going to be? And also, where is the traffic going to come from that's going to support that area? Is it going to come directly off of Redhawk, or is it going to be at the Central and at a new intersection there?
John and John?
So maybe Mr. Moscato might be able to clarify a little bit more. But as we can see from the provided plat, we will have access through Central Avenue. down right in here, as well as off of Redhawk Road. The housing that's going to be along Central and within the interior roadway will have its primary access through the alleyway, as frontages can't occur off of Central Avenue.
So are they going to be, is there going to be single homes built on Central, right there where you see Central coming into Redhawk? Is that going to be multifamilies? Those look like bigger units that you have there.
Good evening again. All the housing here will be single-family, so none of this is technically multifamily. Some of it it's attached single-family, but it falls under the category of single-family. The access, as John Castillo just mentioned, would be from Redhawk Gulf Road or Sonoma Ranch Boulevard, which is connecting from Central Avenue. So multiple access points, single-family housing. It's a little more dense than has been developed in Metro Verde so far. This is an attempt to have more attainable housing, slightly smaller footprints, addressing the need, which I think the Commission has heard in previous meetings. It's called the missing middle housing. So this is really our first attempt in Metro Verde with that type of housing.
What about the commercial lots there? Where are they located on this map?
The commercial lots are accessed from Redhawk Gulf Road.
Are they on, which end of that map are they on?
The commercial lots are the two large lots on the left-hand side.
So, oh, down here on this end, huh?
Right, along Redhawk Gulf Road.
Okay. All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
No further questions.
Okay, thank you very much. Is there anyone else? All right, in that case, John? Yeah, I'm just getting rid of something. We need a motion and a second on this item.
I make a motion to approve 6.1.
I second.
Board Member Kaiser,
Yes.
I'm going to need your reasoning behind that, please.
Yes, of course. Yes, based on staff's recommendation and consistency with the planning and development.
Thank you. Board Member Smith?
Yes, based on staff recommendation.
Board Member Bennett?
Vote to approve based on staff recommendation. This complies with the MPO thoroughfare plan and Elevate Las Cruces.
Board Member Vega?
I vote yes based on staff recommendations, and it meets Elevate Las Cruces.
Board Member Guerrero?
I vote yes based on staff recommendation and also Elevate Las Cruces plan.
Chair Gordon?
I vote yes based on staff recommendation and discussion and Elevate Las Cruces.
Thank you.
I guess 6-0. All right, then we can move to item 6.2.
Good evening, members of the Commission. Catherine Harrison Rogers for the record. This particular item is a special use permit for 421 Avenida Mesilla, Suite C in particular. There have been some questions about the differences between special use permits and variances, and I would like to start with that. Cannabis uses in the city have some recommendations surrounding them regarding certain buffering distances between daycares and schools, between single-family residential zones, and between each other. As part of that process, staff looked at various methods by which to have some administrative relief from those requirements if it met certain standards, if applicants were interested in doing so. During that time when those codes were adopted, the City Council elected to allow for a special use permit process to deviate from the distancing between
single-family zones and from other retailers. A special use permit process is, it's basically a use that could be allowed at a location by the zoning in so long as there are either no impacts or any impacts that may be created from said use are mitigated. Ultimately looking at compatibility in relation to other uses and that particular use. Now, variances, on the other hand, are only allotted or allowed for the distancing between schools. And the reason behind that is because the city council elected to be much more stringent in the regard between the distancing between schools and cannabis-related uses. Very similar to the way we treat alcohol at the state level. Now, variances have much stricter criteria. They have certain hardships that one must adhere to in order to prove to be allowed at that location. So they are slightly different. Some of the reasons that we had 2 special use permits that were placed on the consent agenda, this being one of them, and I'm going to go into details about the case momentarily. And the reason they were placed on consent is simply because they were not creating any additional impacts based on the use at those locations. They were allowed to have cannabis at those locations. They simply didn't meet that distancing rule, and the retail use as a category was not creating any additional impacts that were otherwise existed at those retail locations. So that being said, I'm going to go ahead and talk about the details of this one in particular. This one at Avenida Mesilla is a special use permit. The current property is zoned C3C. That C at the end of that, it's commercial high intensity conditional. And the condition that was placed upon the zoning when that was done several years ago basically stated that if the property were to be redeveloped and were to trigger any of the items that required that something come into compliance based on any nonconformities, that it would. That's a pretty typical standard. It's interesting that they added it as a zoning condition because it's actually a condition of any property that's nonconforming throughout the city. It's not a special or unique situation. In terms of this particular property, it was constructed in the 1970s, and so it's non-conforming in terms of the fact that there is one building that's split by a lot line. The front setbacks along Avenida Mesilla don't quite conform to today's standards, and the landscaping isn't as robust as today's standards require. Based on the proposal for a retail establishment at this location, it's not triggering any of the requirements that would require it to go through any sort of formal standard, any formal conversion or redevelopment to try to make those issues conforming. So that being said, this particular property is a little under 2 acres, again developed as a small retail center. It has several suites and 3 buildings on the property. It is located at a very, very active commercial corridor intersection. That is Avenida Mesilla and South Valley Drive. The surrounding neighborhood is a mixed-use neighborhood. There's R1A to the north, and to the east. There's some R3, which is multifamily, office, and some commercial uses. You can see by this map the areas in question that would require the special use permit, because it is within 300 feet, are these R1A zones. And you can see the property is right here as I'm circling it with my cursor. And then you can see the remainder of the area is multifamily, commercial, and office. And what's being proposed, again, is a cannabis establishment, specifically a cottage industry. They're proposing to both grow, package, and sell cannabis at this location. To the north, it's about 108 feet from the perimeter of the business footprint to that R1A zone, which is actually at the center line of the roadway. And then to the east, it's approximately 147 feet. Again, this 300-foot deviation, or that deviation to the 300 feet rather, is what's triggering the need for a special use permit. All other buffer distances are met, and those other buffer distances, again, are between other cannabis retailers and then school and daycare properties. They are obligated to follow all of our regulations regarding cannabis and other business requirements, and all cannabis requirements of the state of New Mexico. Should be noted again that this is an established retail center. It was built in the 1970s. By staff's analysis, there really is no change in impacts from a use perspective at this location. There will be no direct access to any of the single-family neighborhoods, and the proposed business and single-family uses are separated by a major commercial corridor to the north, and then by a wall, another commercial building, and some parking areas to the east, as well as some landscaping. Here's a site plan. We are looking, this is actually pointing south. So this is Avenida de Mesilla right here. Here is the property in question, and this grayed out area is the suite in question. And you can see that to the left of the screen where my cursor is, there are some single-family homes here, and then of course across the street there are some single-family homes and as well as some commercial. This is just an interior of the layout of the building, that particular suite. We did send notice to surrounding properties. We did receive one phone call, basically expressing general displeasure or discomfort related to the effects of cannabis use for some people. I'm not quite sure if they're here this evening or not, but did indicate that they may be. Staff is recommending approval based on findings. Those were outlined in your staff report, and I've listed them here as well. And your options tonight are vote yes to approve, vote no to deny, vote yes with conditions, or vote to table. And I would be happy to answer any questions. As I understand it, the applicant is here as well and can answer questions of the commission.
All right, thank you, Catherine. Is there anyone from the commission who has any questions or comments? Commissioner Kaiser?
Thank you. I just want to thank staff for providing that clarification tonight about the difference between the two consent agenda items related to cannabis and the one that's upcoming further on in our agenda tonight, I think. And I hope folks understand the difference there between why two are on the consent agenda versus the other one not being. I think for just good governance and transparency, I think having that explanation on the record is beneficial. So again, I thank staff and I have no further questions.
Okay, thank you. And does the applicant have any comments, or does anyone else from the audience have any questions or comments? All right, if not, then I will take a vote from the commission. I need a motion to approve item, what are we? 6.2.
A motion to approve item 6.2.
I second.
Board Member Kaiser.
Yes, based on staff's recommendation and consistency with Elevate Las Cruces.
Board Member Smith.
Yes, based on staff recommendation and site visit.
Board Member Bennett.
Yes, based on staff recommendation, this also complies with Elevate Las Cruces and the purpose and intent of the code.
Board Member Vega.
Yes, based on staff recommendation and site visit as well.
Board Member Guerrero.
Yes, based on staff recommendation and complying with Elevate Las Cruces.
Chair Gordon.
I vote yes based on my site visit, staff recommendations, and compliance with Elevate Las Cruces.
Thank you. 6, approval.
Okay, thank you. So now we can move into new business, which would be item 8.1. Mr. Benegas?
Yes, sir. Mr. Chairman, Vincent Benegas, interim planner for the record. I will be presenting 3 cases this evening, the first of which is a case involving 855 Piñon Street. It is an infill development process. That is seeking to place a single manufactured home on property that is currently predominantly vacant. There is an abandoned shed on the property and some chain link fencing, but otherwise vacant. It's certainly underutilized, and they're seeking to place that manufactured home on the property along with receiving some approvals for associated deviations to our zoning code. The property is at the corner of Piñon Street. It's at the north west corner of Pinon Street and North Santa Fe Street. As indicated, it is predominantly vacant. The R4 zone is our multi-dwelling, high-density, and limited retail and office zoning district. It does come with both a minimum and a maximum density requirement for residential uses. In this case, perhaps the one that is targeted the most as it relates to the proposal is the minimum density, and that is established at 10 dwelling units per acre. The property is currently comprised of 2 lots, lots 1 and 2. It's part of Block 2, Cox's First Subdivision 117. As indicated, they are both making up the property in question and are underutilized properties. The property does fall within the infill development boundary, and thus is a qualifying parcel. Combined acreage of both of those lots is 1.58 acres or 6,882 square feet. So the slide that is up right now is our zoning map for the area. It does show the prospective property in red, outlined in red here. Santa Fe Street is located here, Pinon Avenue here. You do have other roadways in the vicinity, but primarily what you are seeing is a good amount of existing R4 zoning in place, covering obviously the subject parcel in question. Off to the east, across Santa Fe Street, you do have commercial zoning, in this case C2. That's our medium intensity commercial district. Solano Drive is further east of that. On the west side, you have R2 zoning, which is our multi-dwelling, low-density residential district. That certainly allows for apartments, duplexes, things of that nature, as well as single-family units as well. The aerial map identifies the subject property once again, outlined in red, and you do see a rather robust mix of uses in the area, everything from duplexes, sometimes triplexes, single-family. Certainly immediately adjacent to the subject property, you do have single-family uses, again, on that R4 zoning that is in place. Across from the subject property on the east side, you have many storage units, some of which, at least years ago, were utilized for some of the smaller offices and that kind of thing for not only storage of materials, but actual office uses. So you do have quite a variety of mixed-use scenario going on in this vicinity. You also have some vacant parcels. They would certainly be eligible for the infill development process as well at some point in the future if the applicants came forward and requested a proposal. So in regards to the specific request, the applicant, in working with staff, has requested that they be allowed to place as their new home a new manufactured home on the property. The requirement, going back to that minimum density requirement, they would be required to place 2 in order to meet density requirements. That said, they are off by less than half a dwelling unit in order to comply with that. So they are very close. It's 1 dwelling unit, but nonetheless, they wish to place the single manufactured home to serve as their home. They're also seeking some typical ancillary structures for the proposal. At some point in the future, they're looking at a phased approach to the development here. Their main primary concern is the home. But a covered carport, for instance, a new shed on the property, and maybe at some point in the future they would alter the existing fence that is there and maybe put a wall. Things of that nature are certainly under consideration. by the applicant. In order to do so, the deviations that are listed on the slide are required elements. These speak to the R4 zoning, and for instance, in that the property in question contains 2 lots. Normally, we seek the replatting of the 2 into a single lot, in that they're looking to place the structure promptly and get otherwise underutilized vacant parcel into active use. They're requesting that that be waived. And there's also a deviation to the minimum lot size requirement. Right now in the R4 zone, the code requires 8,500 square foot minimum lot size, and they're shy of that by 1,618 square feet. And again, that's in consideration of both lots 1 and 2, and adding up the acreage respectively. There's also a need for an 18-foot deviation to the minimum 70-foot lot width requirement in the code. And I spoke about the dwelling unit deviation. It'd be a 1 dwelling unit deviation to the minimum 2 to meet that minimum density threshold. The applicant is also seeking to retain the R4 development rights for the property. Their primary goal, of course, as indicated, is residential. They want it for their house. But in speaking with staff felt that to be consistent with the Elevate Las Cruces Comprehensive Plan and what it intends to do with the urban place type that this property is in, by retaining these rights at some point in the future, should they opt to do so, they may consider improving the property beyond what they're going to do or what they're going to seek, and maybe go into an office environment or a limited retail environment, similar to what the R4 standard would allow, and certainly what the urban place type suggests we do. They're also seeking to, in that it be residential at this point in time, if approved, allow for curb cuts, the sizing of which, the driveway access, parking area standards and surfacing, and any landscaping requirement to remain consistent with single-family dwelling provisions. Again, it would be single-family if approved, and henceforth they're looking to retain those requirements in accordance to a single-family use. The stipulation being that if the use changes in the future, again, if they seek to intensify or densify the property, then the prevailing standards would be in use at that time, or be applied at that time, I should say. So this is a site plan of the property. It is showing the boundary of the property in question. This includes the 2 lots. They will be meeting the front yard setback of the R4 zone at 20 feet. Access will be along this area along Santa Fe Street. Their proposed carport would be in this general vicinity, and their shed here. The rear yard setback's not going to be a problem, side yard's not going to be a problem, nor will the secondary frontage be a problem. So again, for the most part, very compliant site plan in terms of the R4 standards that are in effect today. In terms of analysis of this case, staff felt that the proposal was not out of character with the immediate surrounding area. Again, if you look at the R4 zoning and some of the uses that are out there, it's very consistent with that. There were no health, safety, or welfare issues identified with the request. And there were some review comments, but many of those spoke to comments that could be addressed at a building permit stage. And we saw no reason to prevent consideration of this IDP at this point in time. In terms of public notice, notice was sent to the property owners in accordance with the zoning code, and staff has received 3 emails protesting the request. The concerns of these individuals cited the use of the manufactured home as one reason for the protest. Another was excessive number of deviations, And there was also mention of incompatible use in terms of the surrounding area. And just to address that, I'd like to speak to the manufactured home issue. I'd like the commission to be advised that manufactured homes have the same rights and privileges that a site-built home has. This is pursuant to state law. If it were a mobile home, that would be a different situation, but this is a manufactured home. In terms of the excessive number of deviations, I'd like to point out that some of these deviations speak to the potential future use should the property be subject to, again, intensification or densification. And so those requests speak to that ability. Compatibility of the surrounding area, I think staff has indicated that there's quite a substantial amount of compatibility. Staff recommendation is approval based on findings. The property is located in the IDO area and is an eligible IDP property. And so this is an attempt to reactivate, if you will, a property that is substantially underutilized and make it an active property in terms of tax rules, et cetera. And the IDP meets several of the purpose and intent criteria of the zoning code, some of which speak to encouraging innovations in land development and redevelopment. This property did have I believe it was a manufactured home on it at some point in the past and had since been removed. But in allowing an IDP to go forward, again, allows development or redevelopment in this case to take place. Development of underutilized property in an established area speaks for itself. Development to be sensitive to the character of existing neighborhoods. I think what they're trying to do here is make sure that the manufactured home use is indeed compatible with the surrounding property. And then there's the minimized neighborhood conflicts, and again, speaks to itself there. The property is also within the urban neighborhood place type characterized by medium to high density residential land uses and supporting neighborhood commercial development. The goals, there's several goals and policies and actions within Elevate Las Cruces that support the request, and spoke to the consistency issue already. There's also the fulfillment of the city's infill policy plan, some of the criteria that's identified there, and the criteria for decisions in the municipal code 2-382. The property is adjacent to 2 dedicated and improved rights-of-way, so use of the property would certainly take advantage of any utilities and infrastructure that currently exists. The options this evening regarding this case is to vote yes and approve the case as presented, vote no and deny the case. If you deny the case, please be advised that new information or facts not identified during the presentation would be necessary. And you could vote yes with conditions, stipulating those conditions as part of your motion, or vote to table. And that concludes staff's presentation, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Vince. Is there anyone from the commission who has any questions? Commissioner Kaiser.
Is one of the issues here related to the density that even with the replat, turning the 2 lots into 1, that they wouldn't meet the design standards for that at a minimum second unit? Is that the case?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Kaiser, that's correct. When staff reviewed this proposal, it was considering both lots 1 and 2 as one lot anyway.
Okay, so theoretically in the future, if they were to try to redevelop this site, they probably would have to go through the IDP process again. Is that true?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Kaiser, that could very well be the case depending on what exactly they were proposing. Yes.
Okay, thank you. And then finally, the issue about retaining the rights to the R4, I mean, those wouldn't go away just by approving this IDP, right? I mean, the underlying zoning would still be there. correct?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Kaiser, that is correct. The R4 zoning would still be in play. I think to avoid any future confusion on that issue, staff felt it might be a good idea to incorporate that as part of the discussion.
Understood. Okay, thank you. No further questions.
Is there anyone else? I have one question. During your presentation, you made some kind of comment about there might be a possibility in the future of some commercial use.
Mr. Chairman, the R4 zoning, as its description implies, allows some limited retail and office uses, and those are rather limited in the R4. R4 being the most, the highest, if you will, residential district in our code.
So that would mean in the future that they're not considering removing the manufactured home and replacing it with an office structure.
Not at this time. Their primary focus is purely residential to create a home for the family.
All right. Is there anyone from the public who wishes to speak?
Mr. Chairman, if I may, real quick, the applicant is also in attendance tonight, Gilbert Olivas, and if you have any questions or like to hear from him, he's certainly willing to do so.
All right, well, let's hear from him first. The applicant is here. Would you please state your name for the record and allow me to swear you in?
Gilberto Olivas, Gilbert Olivas, and I swear.
All right, do you swear or affirm that the testimony you are about to give is the truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Under penalty of law?
I do, sir.
All right, go ahead, sir. Thank you.
Okay, good evening, members of Las Cruces Planning and the chairman, and also to the members of the public in attendance. My name is Gilbert Olivas, and at this time, my wife and I are requesting an infill development proposal. The purpose of our request is simple. We wish to place a new single manufactured home on the subject property to be used as a residence. It'll be ground set as VA requirements, so it's not going to be up above or anything. So it's going to look just like a home. It's got pitched roof, shingles, and the siding, everything complies for that as a manufactured home. And once it's set there for life. It'll be ground set and will meet all the easement requirements as explained and presented by the excellent professional staff. Thank you, Mr. Venegas. The IDP process can aid us to developing our property. Eventually a fence, which we have a 4-foot chain link fence at the moment right now, but we plan on putting up a different one, something, better, like maybe a rock wall or a wooden fence or something like that. But it will meet all the requirements as well. It'll meet all the required setbacks and requirements to meet all building codes for our 4 zoning district as well. The property has been in the family for over 65 years. It has 3 different mobile homes at the time, never had it a built home. It has been empty for a few years and the yard maintained and clean, always up to code, as has only had summer gardens and my trees that are growing around. We kept the utilities for such. We know most of the people that lived in the neighborhood for many years. My wife was raised there and I was raised 2 blocks north of that place, at the corner of Spruce and Santa Fe. We both lived our lives there, except for serving proudly and honorably in the U.S. Army from 72 to 75. And we saw it grow. It's always been our dream as most Americans to own our own home, especially in our neighborhood where we grew up and we were raised. We want to go back to our roots as this is the only opportunity that we have, especially at this age. It'll brighten our neighborhood and improve the neighborhood community conditions and justify the infill development plan. It'll be advantageous to the community as articulated to the City of Las Cruces Comprehensive Plan in any applicable regional or neighborhood plan. We really appreciate the assistance to making this thing possible. And if you have any questions, I will be glad to answer to you.
All right, thank you. Is there any questions? I do have one question. Is the picture that was presented to us is the actual home that you're going to put there?
Yes, sir, but that one, it's exactly the same thing, except it has a double pitch, mine does, but it's the same. And it's going to be ground level just like that.
That's very nice. All right, then is there anyone from the public who wishes to speak on this? Please raise your, yes, ma'am. Yeah, well, there's only one person. I will, though, I'll do that anyway. Before you speak, I'm going to only allow you 3 minutes. And so will you please state your name for the record and let me swear you in?
Rita Sainz.
All right. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth and nothing but the truth under penalty of law?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
First of all, I have a question. For manufactured homes, if they are set in a, and I don't know the lingo, I'm sorry.
Can you speak into the microphone so that?
Yeah, yes,
it's
I'm
being
sorry.
recorded?
So a manufactured home, if it's set in a neighborhood where it's primarily built homes, I guess, will that devalue make the value of the homes less or not? Even though I understand,
Mr. Chairman, just to clarify again, the manufactured homes pursuant to state law enjoy the same rights and privileges as any site-built home. They're considered one and the same. They have HUD-related design standards they must comply with. So in all intents and purposes, they're considered the same.
but do they devalue the home value?
Mr. Chairman, that's subject to interpretation. Some folks may feel it might devalue property. Others might feel it does not. It improves value. There's no set in stone method of comparing and contrasting homes in terms of single-family detached styles to determine value, devaluation or valuation.
Is there anything else?
Yes, so I'm here on behalf of my sister, Claudia Diaz has property there. My mother, Rita Diaz, has property, and myself. I have 2 properties around that neighborhood. And I believe you got an email from and I'm here physically to represent as well. So another concern that we have is if that goes through, there's a big empty lot property right across it. That won't set precedent to add more manufactured homes, which is like how you say, it is a right or whatever. But I know that from Spruce to the other side, I've seen manufactured homes, but not at the side where we are set in our neighborhood. And we are, against if it's gonna come to, like, if there's a precedent to add more mobile homes. As it is, it's a neighborhood that struggles with the home value. I have an empty property myself. I know you guys are trying to fill empty lots. I have an empty lot across behind the street. And as for me, I really am trying to, my lot is zoned to do like multiple dwellings. I'm trying to do homes because I do try to see my neighborhood, we can encourage them to build their own homes, our own homes. And we're against it. I don't know if that makes, I'm so sorry, I don't know, I'm a little bit nervous. So we're here to be against it. I'm representing, like I said, my sister, Claudia Diaz, my mother, Rita Diaz, and myself, who we all have properties there. And that.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else? Yes, sir. Again, I'd like to limit you to 3 minutes, please. So would you please state your name for the record and let me swear you in?
Zachary Flores.
You swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth and nothing but the truth on the penalty of law?
I do.
All right, please make sure you speak into the microphone.
Yes, sir.
It can be raised a little bit, I think. There you go.
You want me bunched up. I'm here speaking, give or take, professionally, impartially on behalf of the lady that just left. I'm a realtor in town. I do sell it, but I also have family home on the corner of Spruce and Virginia. So when you talk about devaluing the neighborhood or, all that, as a realtor and as having appraisers, it matters on what style the home is. Is it a single wide or is it a double wide? So being as it's a double wide? Okay, so being as it's a double wide, it allows some lenders, but not all lenders, right? So you're not gonna find every single lender. So on resale of that property, it's not going to provide the same value as when he installed it, ground set. We're living in a crazy time on this housing market, and I'm on behalf of the gentleman that's fighting for this. I feel for him because there's no answer to inexpensive housing right now. So we're seeing that shortage, and he's got land there, right? But also there's real estate professionals like myself and a developer in this room right now, or was. I'm not sure if he's still here, but there are people here that could push the agenda towards what Las Cruces in that area needs to be. So if you're looking at the Alameda Depot, right, and we're pushing east, right, from the downtown Main Street, and the development and the rehabs and the updating of that area is going to be next, right, the Mesquite Historical District. So in speaking for the lady and myself and my family, I definitely will like to bring to your attention, absolutely, double wides make it a lot more difficult to sell. It won't devalue the neighboring house, but now if it does set a precedence and you allow that big lot to have 3, 4, another one, in my perfect vision of Las Cruces born and bred, we would see more site-built houses, especially in these historic depots where this gentleman grew up, right? My family grew up, my blood, we're all here. So I would not side with putting a double wide there. Unfortunately, there's not a good answer for our housing crisis. And that's all I have to say. So if you have any questions.
All right, thank you. Is there anyone else? All right, in that case, I guess, any comments or more questions from the commission?
Yes, this Commissioner Smith, I have a comment. Mr. Olivas, he did mention that he and his wife grew up in this neighborhood, and their land has been in their family for 65 years. And he also stated that this is going to be a home that he will remain in for the rest of his life. So as we look at this proposal, you have to take into account that, there is a home shortage, and the cost of homes continue to, skyrocket. And here is a couple who has had roots in this city for a very, very long time, for many decades, and they want to come home to establish a home. It is a home. It is a house. Whether it's manufactured, double wide, whether it's built out of adobe, that really doesn't matter in this situation. It is a home. And so I feel that when someone comes up from a real estate perspective, they're only thinking about money. They're not thinking about people. They're not thinking about homes. They're not thinking about families.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right, in that case, I guess the commission is ready for a vote. Vince?
I apologize, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to read a definition that I think may help in the discussion. Manufactured housing means a manufactured home or modular home that is a single-family dwelling with a heated area of at least 36 feet by 24 feet and at least 864 square feet and constructed in a factory to the standards of the United States Department of Housing and Urban Development, the National Manufactured Housing Construction and Safety Standards Act of 1974, and the Housing and Urban Development Zone Code 2, or the Uniform Building Code, as amended to the date of the unit's construction and installed consistent with the Manufactured Housing Act and with regulations made pursuant to that act. So these type of structures, if you're talking about assessed value, they're considered real property, not personal property like a mobile home would be, just to clarify.
All right, thank you. All right, then I guess we are ready for a vote. I need a motion to approve item 8.1.
I make a motion to approve item 8.1.
I'll second it.
Board Member Kaiser?
Yes, based on staff recommendation, consistency with Elevate Las Cruces and the IDP.
Board Member Smith?
I vote yes, based on staff recommendation and also compliance with the infill development plan.
Board Member Bennett?
I vote yes based on staff recommendation. This also meets the IDP requirements in Elevate Las Cruces.
Board Member Vega?
I vote yes based on the site visit and it meets the IDP criteria.
Board Member Guerrero?
I vote yes as well, based on staff recommendation and need for infill in Las Cruces.
Chair Gordon?
I vote yes based on my site visits, staff recommendations, good use of the IDP, and Elevate Las Cruces.
Approval by 6, thank you.
All right, we can move on to item 8.2. Mr. Benegas, you're on stage again.
Yes, sir. Let me get to that, if I could. Okay, here we go.
Excuse me, Vince, just for a second. John, could you come here for a minute, please? Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, and once again, Vincent Benegas, interim planner for the record, presenting tonight's case involving 227 South Main Street. It is a variance request involving cannabis-related use or proposed use. The property is currently located at the corner of Bowman Avenue and South Main Street, again, 227 South Main Street. Currently, the facility is operated as a Mesilla Valley Pharmacy. Based on the information presented, they, among other things, not only are they a pharmacy, but they also compound and retail CBD-related product presently. They're looking to expand and incorporate cannabis-related compounds, et cetera, for the benefit of their customers. The property is 0.381 acres in size, and it is zoned in our downtown development code as Main Street. The area in question was developed as part of the Las Cruces excuse me, original town site. The structure was originally built in 1977, and in this case, it is located immediately adjacent to the New America School. In fact, they share a wall between them. They may have two separate walls, but nonetheless, they're attached. So this is the zoning map showing the property in question. Dry throat. It's not COVID. The property is outlined in red. Again, Bowman Avenue along the southern boundary here, South Main Street in the middle. Church Street is off to the east, and you have the Main Street district on either side of Main Street. Each of these properties that I'm pointing to are Main Street. Elsewhere, primarily in this area and along several of the other surrounding properties, you have the downtown district of Downtown Development Code. There is a downtown designation. And then you have some civic uses that are also within the general vicinity to serve as public-related uses. The plaza is an example, parking, public parking, et cetera. An aerial map showing the area, the subject property, again, outlined in red. You have the building that is currently the Mesilla Valley Pharmacy here. It is along this edge of the building where the attachment takes place to the New America School located here. You have a variety of uses in the area, everything from service, restaurant, retail, you have office, you have everything. I should say you have a good mix of uses that is certainly promoted as part of the downtown effort to date. The request, as it was submitted, is for a variance of 300 feet to the required 300-foot minimum buffer distance between a cannabis facility, and by that we're talking about the building footprint, and a qualifying school property line. Qualifying school, just to be clear, is everything pre-K through 12. No adult school, trade school, et cetera, are considered as part of that definition. And the school in question is the New America School, as indicated. The applicant is Farm True Cannabis Retail and Manufacturing, and again, they're looking to expand a little bit beyond the CBD aspect and incorporate cannabis or THC level product as part of their medications and offering to their customers, their customer base. The company is obviously, thank you, David. The company is obviously healthcare oriented. And as part of their package of information they submitted, there's 3 criteria Catherine touched on as part of her presentation regarding the cannabis case earlier. But there's 3 criteria that the zoning code stipulates. One is a physical hardship, and 2 is showing that there's some economic development justification to the request, and a 3rd is to show economic hardship in complying with the requirements of the code. So this is one of the 2 items that they submitted to help justify the request. It is economic development driven, at least at this slide, and talks to the issue of job creation. As part of the expansion, they would need some additional employees and positions to facilitate that growth. There's also the issue of GRTs as retail sales expand as a result of the cannabis use in their medications, et cetera. They anticipate that retail sales will increase, thus the GRT increase to the city. Also, in terms of, again, the criteria for a decision, the applicant submitted some information about monetary hardships as it pertains to this particular request. There's the investment aspect that has already taken place with the property, getting it ready for not only what they have in place now, but for any potential increase in activity. They illustrate that some of the alternatives that would really affect them and put them in a bad position is the issue of leasing additional or another site to serve as their facility for this use as requested is going to be costly. There's a possibility of purchasing commercial property for this proposed use. And there's the cost to develop the land for the building that would house their operation. So all that equates to a substantial monetary hardship, which they illustrate through these slides. The site plan that was submitted, again, showing the property in its entirety, but the building footprint here. It is, again, along this wall that the connection to the New America School is at issue. Parking would take place along not only South Main Street, but along Bowman Avenue. You could see some of the parking stalls identified as part of this graphic. Upper right, you have the small but useful aerial showing, again, the connection point to the school. A couple more photos. This is just more or less at the corner of Bowman and Main Street, again, showing Mesilla Valley Pharmacy, the New America School. The one on the left is just a south facade of the subject business, and the one on the right is the east facade showing again connection to the school. So public notice and input. Notice was sent to the surrounding properties in accordance with our zoning code rules and regulations. At first, I must say that staff had not received a lot of input, but since Thursday last week, most of it come in this weekend and through today, there has been substantial interest in this case. 10 emails were submitted, all protesting the request. And the concerns largely centered on the items, the bulleted items that are shown in the slide, and I'll just touch on a few. Again, the distance issue was thought to be excessive based on current code. There's large degree of concern with the impact to the student population of the school and to the children in the community. And they also felt, the school felt that there could be some school operational concerns as well. But those were some of the consistent themes of the protest email. Staff did receive a few additional calls, but some of them were just inquisitive type calls, and another was in opposition as well. Recommendation, in reviewing this case, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, this was a tough one. You had staff look at the issues that were brought forward in terms of this request, and we looked at both policy and ordinance, keeping in mind that policy was written a couple years back, and the ordinance written certainly more recently than that. And we considered some of the discussion that took place regarding the buffer distances, and certainly thought that there was intent to protect schools and to protect the students that go to those schools. So staff has what we would call a soft denial on this, but it is a denial. And the findings for the denial are as follows. Obviously, the site is 3.81 acres in size, and currently, and this is important, currently operates as a pharmacy, compounding, retailing CBD product. And the reason why I bring that up, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, is because there's a known quantity of what the rules required for a business that was already in operation looking to entertain cannabis as an expansion. So the other findings are the use of cannabis requires a 300-foot buffer. That has to be met, and since it cannot, the variance to the tune of 100% is being requested, and staff felt that this was just too excessive. If you recall, we had a case a couple months back on the north side of this very same school where the applicants couldn't meet the 300 feet, but they could meet 2/3 of that. So there was a little allowance there to mitigate some of the impact, and that's kind of how we viewed that case. This one, it's 100% and a little bit tougher to contend with. Again, discussion in the drafting of the ordinance took place, trying to determine best practices to limit exposure to school-aged children. There's been no 100% buffer distance variance approved to date. And we did have the superintendent and the school oppose the request, as they did in the other case. And again, they were the ones that cited significant concerns to their student population and to operational issues. I want to indicate that Elevate Las Cruces, our comprehensive plan, lends broad support to the request. It does so through economic development related policy, and it does so through broad land use policy. but nowhere in the comp plan does it speak to specific issues related to cannabis locations and schools or anything along those lines. So even though there is broad support, staff feels that the recent ordinance overrides that broad support and was aimed at protecting a specific group, in this case schools and students. If this is denied, the action would not be contrary to Section 3810K, criteria for decisions. Again, one of the first things that's listed there is demonstrating physical hardship, which staff did not find to be the case with this request. As per Section 38.2, there's 3 provisions that further lend support to the denial decision. Staff didn't feel that the request fostered a rational relationship between different land uses for the mutual benefit of all. Again, you have at least one property owner who's a significant player in this issue, very concerned with the request. And there's also the issue of sensitivity to the character of the existing neighborhood and trying to mitigate conflicts amongst neighbors. So with this, you have options this evening, Mr. Chair, Commissioners. Vote yes and approve the case. Keep in mind that this is a little different. If you go that route, you'll need to submit new findings of fact not identified during staff's presentation. You could certainly vote no and go with the staff recommendation of denial. You could vote yes with the conditions or vote to table. If you do have any conditions, please include them in your motion for approval. And that concludes staff's presentation. I know that we have the representative for Farm True in attendance this evening, Mr. Chairman, so I'm sure he would like to speak to the issues at hand.
All right, thank you. Would the applicant like to speak first before I go to the commission for questions?
Yes, we would.
Would you please state your name for the record and let me swear you in, please?
Daniel G. Buck.
Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth and nothing but the truth under penalty of law?
I do.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman and members of the Commission. To keep items moving efficiently and effectively, we can reference certain documentation I brought with me in regard to the docket in the case at hand. I will take a moment to distribute them, and I will explain what the color coding at the header equates to. While we continue to pass out the docket, I'm going to take a few seconds to describe my background as it pertains to the state of New Mexico and cannabis. I'm currently the state-appointed mediator for Chaparrals Incorporation on behalf of State Representative Willie Madrid, as well as a case handler for items that arise with cannabis and executive director of the Southwestern Cannabis Trade Association, which represents ancillary service providers as well as economic drivers of cannabis and cannabis-adjacent businesses. This specific client before you tonight, Farm True, has invested a large sum of capital into the downtown Main Street program and has employed over 20 people since the dawn of this year in August of 2021. As we all know, at the beginning of 2020, Main Street saw a stall in its economic spur due to the COVID rise case and then the shutdown subsequently. And we're coming now out of the recession in 2022 in the first fiscal quarter. This client currently retails CBD adjacent products and compounds, and they're looking to expand into THC-related products in a two-step safety protocol program, one of the most comprehensive I've seen year to date come before my staff and my office. Upon check-in on the green header of your docket, you will see that this business will have a check-in counter for cannabis before they enter the retail district at the furthest end of the store. They will then have an additional check-in when you enter the retail area through a Dutch-style split-in-half door. So there'll be a counter upon first check-in for an ID retrieval, then a subsequent ID check of the purchaser of the cannabis-adjacent product. With the cannabis-adjacent product, you will not be allowed to leave the cannabis retailing zone inside the pharmacy without checking out in the designated retail area for cannabis or have purchased the goods from the retail frontage as well as your prescription that you may be retrieving simultaneously upon checkout. I'm going to remove my tennis bracelet to enter this as Exhibit A. Imagine this in a yellow highlighted or blue highlighted color-coded manner. I'm sure we have all been to nightclubs where there's underage individuals by state statute who can enter, and they're usually governed by a wristband or an X on the hand. Cannabis retailers will be mandated to wear a wristband upon the two-step check-in protocol and upon leaving the cannabis retail zone to enter back into the normal commerce zone of the pharmacy itself. If we do not work as a trade group and as a commission to pass the variance that's before you, we will have killed a subsequent business that is benefiting the Main Street area and employing people and supplying food for their families. This is an extremely safe business, and cannabis is governed very harshly by the state of New Mexico. Upon discovery last Friday, the school has continued a dual relationship with this client, which is actually illegal in a broad stroke of breach of moral conduct. Someone who receives a salary from DLCP has been continuously communicating with the client and failed to disclose her involvement with the school board. And at the same time has been giving verbal context that is relayed from this client back to the school board, which is a prime example of what hurts e-commerce and economic incentive-driven growth in Las Cruces and Doña Ana County. We must work with our trade partners and our industries to ensure their future and collaborate with people who are investing on Main Street. And I would like to get for the record straight, New America School represents mostly an age federally recognized 18 to 21 bracket, people who are on a secondary education tract. They provide preschool-related services for the attendees' relative children. It is not a daycare and underage federally recognized bracket that is being served continuously in the ed program. And I would like to see a continuation of economic disperse in the downtown.
Are you finished?
Yes.
All right, thank you. Is there anyone from the commission who has any questions to the applicant?
I have a question.
Mr. Guerrero.
Oh, yeah, sorry. Can you clarify, so you were saying that, I'm just a little confused with like when you were talking about client and then talking about the person that has been working with New America School. Is that like I guess a competitor to this company, or what's the relationship there?
The relationship is she is paid a salary by DLCP as executive director and then has failed to disclose her involvement with the school board, but the school board has harassed the client on more than one occasion, and this individual has also taken the relative economic information that the client has exchanged with DLCP back to the school board. Serving on multiple committees inside the city of Las Cruces and civic duties that I uphold morally, I have to disclose my involvement on other boards, and I believe that other members should be upheld to that moral standard and should abstain from coming to hearings or having a voice in opposition due to duality.
Is this not a civil issue?
It is a civil issue.
I'm sorry.
I mean, it's not a civil issue, I'm sorry.
Are you saying it's a matter of conflict of interest?
Yes.
Is there anyone else?
I just have a question. Is Farm True in partnership with Mesilla Valley Pharmacy in this venture? Or are there two separate businesses that are in question? I mean, I know that the Mesilla Valley Pharmacy has already been established, and then now you're trying to have Farm True be, establish, a cannabis business there. Are they both connected? Are they one and the same business?
Yes, Commissioner. It's a board of founders. They're two separate LLCs. Farm True has been in existence since the legalization of hemp in the state of New Mexico, and they're transitioning into a broader branch of their hemp-related products, which would, of course, entail cannabis, which is a THC-based product, governed by the same board of directors, governed by the same founders and partnership, just two LLCs coming together into one facility.
All right, thank you.
I have a question to Vince, please. Could you go back to the slide that shows the site plan, please? That's it. Did I understand, we're looking at this information that we received, is there also a possibility that they're thinking of building a separate building or just renovating the interior of the present building?
Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, my understanding is that the interior of the building would be modified to accommodate the expansion.
So, all right, if they were to put up a building, let's say, far enough away from the school, would they qualify under the 300-foot exemption? Business scene, not any property?
Mr. Chairman, I think that would be tough. The property line, even if they located at its furthest distance, I think they'd still be shy of the 300-foot requirement.
Okay, I wasn't sure what you had said, and it's hard to read sometimes. These slides really couldn't be a little bit bigger, would have been nicer. All right, anyone else in the commission? Commissioner Kaiser.
Thank you. First question, probably, for staff or the applicant's representative. The Mesilla Valley Pharmacy, as it stands now, fills prescription drugs. Is that true?
Commissioner, that is correct. They currently retail pharmaceutical drugs, and three of the founders on the board, to elaborate, are board-certified pharmacists.
Thank you. So just to establish for the record, there's already controlled substances, if you will, being distributed out of this pharmacy. So from my perspective, this is certainly a challenging case for sure. I think, the location, the context of being downtown is certainly challenging. The fact that we just a couple months ago approved a similar variance, precedent can be a slippery slope. If 1/3 variance is good, where do we draw the line? So I think that's what makes this really challenging. To staff, I asked a question earlier about the 300-foot buffer as applies to both New American and the other school facility near downtown. I'm hoping you have that map available. Thank you.
Go ahead.
So this is the first time I've seen it, so I'm just sort of digesting here what's on the slide. But this is certainly informative, at least from my perspective. I think one of the concerns I had was how much of downtown would be ruled out of this potential opportunity based on this 300-foot buffer. It appears to me that it's, I mean, it's hard to tell without context here, but it seems to me that there's still a fair amount of downtown that would be available and remain outside of the buffer. Am I reading that correctly?
That's correct. Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Kaiser, yes, the buffers, if I could just kind of orient folks, the New America School is located where my pointer is right now. Farm True is looking to incorporate here in this building to the south. Health Nautics, the case that was previously dealt with a couple of months ago here. And then there is a business, I believe it's Sugi's, at least in our database, it was Diner LLC here. So those are, and this one may be, the cannabis-related centers, if you will, or retail establishments. The items in blue are areas that are alcohol-based, or they have a liquor license of some sort associated with them, so we showed that. But this red or pink, orange, whichever color you want to call it, is showing the buffer distance, 300-foot buffer from the property line of Central Elementary out, and the property line from New America School out. And so all this shaded area would be within the 300-foot buffer distance, and you're going to have to consider variance or an SUP depending on what we're dealing with, and then any area outside is free and clear, keeping in mind the other cannabis-related businesses.
Yeah, thank you. I think that this is very helpful. I kind of wish we had this a couple months ago. And I think, just broadly speaking, from my perspective, I think there's possibly a larger question here for the commission about what should be downtown. I mean, downtown by definition is the central business district. I mean, you have a variety of uses. You have alcohol consumption. You have bars. You have pharmacies that are prescribing drugs under prescriptions. There's a lot of activity going on, and I guess the question is if a school decides to locate downtown, does that mean we push everybody else out? I don't know. I mean, that's just kind of where I'm coming from. I'm glad to see that this map, that there's still plenty of opportunity, it would appear. But, we do have some facilities. There's at least one, alcohol or liquor license located within 300 feet. So the question is, when their license comes up for review or whatever, are we going to have to exclude them? Are they going to have to relocate in downtown? I'm sympathetic to probably some of the folks in the room tonight that are going to speak out against this. But at the end of the day, it's downtown. I mean, this is where we want to attract businesses. Certainly we have to weigh the pros and cons, but, I think that's certainly something that we have to seriously consider, that there's some additional context here. Certainly, providing or setting precedent, only a couple of months ago, I think makes this a little bit more difficult for me, but that's just my perspective.
I do have a question also, Vince. Maybe you could just answer this for me. There are certain criteria that will enable us to grant a variance, other than to approve the fact that there is not a 300-foot barrier between the school and the building, plus hardship, economic. What else is in there beside that?
It's physical hardship,
right.
Justification, citing economic development as a benefit, and consideration of economic hardships, or monetary hardships, in trying to meet the development code as written.
So then, what you said, should we consider, is this 1 out of 3, 2 out of 3, 3 out of 3?
Mr. Chairman, correct. As it's presented here this evening, the denial looks at 1 of 3. But I do cite the other 2 criteria as having merit. I mean, the applicant has shown merit for those.
And it is possible, in consideration of the applicant of this proposal, that we could consider the hardships outweigh the distance restriction. And so you're requesting that they want a variance request of 300 feet. Let me just look at this for a second. It doesn't say anything about the summary of the request. They're just coming forward now, just asking for the 300 feet and providing this other information as ancillary information?
Mr. Chairman, the information that was provided citing some of they had submitted a PowerPoint that had several slides, and the monetary hardship issue and the economic development benefit came just after packets went out.
So then we have something else to consider here.
Correct.
Okay. In that case, is there any other questions from the commission?
Commissioner Vega, I have one question. I know this came up in March. What's the age range of the students at the New America School?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Vega, that's a good question. We'll probably have to defer that question to either the superintendent of the school. If you recall, on the other case, there was quite a bit of confusion on that. But because it included some of the school-age children, the pre-K through 12, we considered it a legitimate qualifying school.
Mr. Chairman, if I may. Before we leave the discussion of the commission, Nicholas for the community development for the record. We have a lot of discussion on the staff on this, and as Mr. Benegas mentioned, the recommendation from the staff was a denial. The primary factor in that had to do with distance. We spent a lot of time before the cannabis ordinance was adopted. We first started with the distancing of 1,000 feet because we felt of the necessary separation from schools, not churches, but schools. Churches were not a part of the formula here. Then we said, well, it was decided that was too great a distance, and it was reduced to 600 feet. And then we had a lot of discussion and public input on that, and then it was reduced to 300 feet. And that's what was approved by the ordinance. This proposal is 0 feet. And so I think, as Commissioner Kaiser mentioned, it's a slippery slope once you begin to approve variances. What is the line that the commission wants to work with as it complies with the ordinance? In particular, the distancing. We had discussion tonight about the variance was based on we have operational procedures that would overcome that. That would be a safeguard to having the distance reduced to 0. The staff determined that the overriding factor here would be complying with the ordinance that was adopted at the 300 feet. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I understand what you're saying. However, we do have the option to give them this variance. We're not restricted from going with your request of denial. If we decide that we want to approve this, that's still our requirement, and school has its option. All right. If there are no other questions, we can go to the public. I'm sure there are
excuse me, I do have one comment to make.
Sorry.
This is Commissioner Smith. This has been, as Commissioner Kaiser stated, a really challenging proposal that's come before us. And I have lived downtown for almost 24 years. And I remember a time when, the downtown area was on life support. And, there was, a church there, still is, Calvary Chapel. And the New America School came in at some point over the last 15 years. And other than that, there were various businesses down there, but it was pretty dead down there. And they had the downtown revitalization committee that came into play. And I have seen downtown really grow, and as a resident downtown, I've been really happy to see that. Looking at this school buffer zone that they slide that they put up, I realized that when this school was established downtown, like I said earlier, there was basically nothing there from a business standpoint. And as we now know, there are various bars, restaurants, cafes. It is a business district for the most part. And the difficulty for me in this proposal is that on one hand, I want to see businesses thrive downtown. I want to see new businesses come in. And as Commissioner Kaiser said, it is a slippery slope when you start to issue variances where we're completely deviating from the standard that's been in place. So I'm saying this because as we make a vote on this, decision on this, it's not going to be easy. I know particularly for myself, being a resident of downtown. So it's. Yeah, this is a challenging one for me. So I just wanted to state that whatever decision's made, it's not going to be an easy one to make. Thank you.
I'd like to thank the chairman and commission for their time tonight and just urge you to consider the economic benefactor, the colloquium laid before you, and the modus operandi of the current economic environment downtown and overall in the municipality. Thank you.
All right, and with that, we now can go to the public. Just everybody who would like to speak, please raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I count 8 people. I will allow each one of you to speak for 3 minutes. So when you come forward, please state your name for the record and let me swear you in, and we'll start on this side. The gentleman here in the first row. Please state your name.
Jay Wisner.
Yeah, please make sure you're talking to the microphone.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it can be raised if you want. There you go.
My name is Jay Wisner.
Thank you. Do you swear to affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth and nothing but the truth under penalty of law?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Yes, I would urge you to think of family, to think of education, to think of the families who have children in this school, and I do mean children. I've placed children in this school before. They do have children at that school. And I would ask you to think of the impact on their children. I have forwarded an article to each of you. I believe it's been distributed to each of you about the impact of cannabis ads and location and the influence on youth regarding marijuana use. I've forwarded a fact sheet on cannabis from the DEA and a study which talks about increased incidence of addiction for youth. And no, they can't buy the cannabis there if you were to pass it, that's true. But it's there right beside them. I want you to think, each of you who have ever had children, would you want your child in a school with a cannabis distribution point right next door with an adjoining wall to where your child receives education? Would you want that? I would also ask you to think about your position as leaders in this community. The leaders in our community should be looking out for the most vulnerable in our community. And if children aren't the most vulnerable in one of the poorest counties in our country, then I don't know who is. I'm asking you to think of these families. I'm asking you to think of their impact And I would ask a question, which I'm pretty sure I know the answer to. Were the parents at this school, of the children at that school, notified? And if not, why not? I mean, they certainly have a voice here, I would think. They certainly have an interest if they have children in that school. I mean, that would be my question. Do they not have an interest? And that's what I would ask you. You know, the decision lies at your feet. And if approved, we may very well have the dubious distinction of having the first city in our country with a THC distributor attached to a public school. Do you want that distinction? I would ask that, and I leave with that. I have some studies here if anybody's interested. They were emailed out to you. They're the same ones that were emailed out earlier.
Okay, thank you. Does anybody have any questions, comments? All right, thank you, sir.
Thank you. Just one last statement. If it is approved, we will go in the morning and challenge it. So I do appreciate your time. I do. Thank you.
Anyone in the second row? The gentleman with the hat? I guess that's the third row. You please state your name.
Mark Veith.
I have to swear you in. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth and nothing but the truth under penalty of law?
I do.
All right, sir, go ahead.
I'd like to thank Mr. Smith for pointing out earlier about the greed of business over the welfare of somebody's house or the welfare of children. Thank you for pointing that out. There is currently a business in this location, and when I drive by there, I don't see that business having any hardship. So they're just adding to how much money they can make. Oh, maybe they might create a few more jobs, but the bottom line is they will be making more money. Mr. Kaiser, to you, I point out, yes, you're correct. They are already selling controlled substance there, federally approved controlled substance, not something that Santa Fe approved. Are we? 300 feet should be non-negotiable. Non-negotiable. This is our children. Are we going to sell our children out just so that somebody can make a little bit more money? We had testimony that it started out at 1,000. That was too great. 600, down, 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 300. 300 should be non-negotiable. Thank you.
All right, thank you. And I move to the next row. I guess that was 3, 4, 5. The lady in the corner back there. Will you please state your name?
My name is Marcy Valdez.
All right, and I have to swear you in, please. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth and nothing but the truth under penalty of law?
Yes, I do.
All right, go ahead.
My name is Marcy Valdez, and I come in 100% support of Farm True, Mesilla Valley Pharmacy. I met, sorry, I'm a little nervous. I met these doctors several years back when my daughter became chronically ill, and I'm going to ask her to stand. And if you would please take a look at her. This is a walking miracle. Without the products that these pharmacists so graciously had a vision and a dream, excuse me, several years ago, my daughter, would not be here today. She lived in a dark room. She suffered chronic migraine. So if we want to talk about children, this is mine. And I thank the pharmacists for creating the product that they have today. And it's not about money. It's not about finances. I'm sure they are very well educated to do something else. It's not about that. It's about the community. It's about the welfare of our community. And we're talking about the feet and all that, but I'm talking about a life. There's a different aspect as well. There's life, and there's use of medical cannabis. There's a lot of information as well regarding the good use of it. We're not talking about recreational, kind of stuff like that. We're talking about the medical use of cannabis. Now, my daughter has been using Farm True products for the last 3 years. And like I said, she is a walking miracle, and her doctors can testify regarding that. It is in her medical file. No other pharmaceutical narcotic that is created synthetically anywhere on this earth worked for her. The only thing that ever worked for her was the CBD product that Farm True provided, and it is documented by her doctor. And I can provide that if anybody would like it. I don't have it today, but if you would like it, I can provide it. And so I'm coming today to you, Chairman and Commissioners, to consider the fact that there is a community of disabled people that are thankful for these pharmacists, for the business that they created. And if we're talking about a wall that separates the two, the school and the business, children cannot walk through a wall. And I'm sure if you look at their map of what they did, there are protocols provided for safety. Thank you.
But before you leave, I have a question. I want to clarify what you just said. Did your daughter take CBD or THC?
She took CBD, but I am not opposed for her trying anything that they have provided that it would give my daughter better quality of life.
Well, if CBD works, and I know you can buy CBD almost anywhere now. You don't even need to go into a pharmacy.
That
You
is
can go any
correct.
store. Basically, everybody sells CBD.
And that is correct, although in my daughter's case, different CBDs did not work. The only one that worked was the product that they provided and the way they produced it. Not really sure how that is. I'm not a scientist, I'm not a pharmacist, and I'm sure that they can provide that for you. All I know is that my daughter is now here, where before she was not.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate your time. Thank you.
The gentleman with raise his hand. Please state your name.
Ramon Martinez.
All right. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth and nothing but the truth on the penalty of law?
Yes.
All right. Go ahead, sir.
I'm just here. I wasn't going to talk, but my wife takes medical marijuana. It helps her. I've had 2 back surgeries. I've tried everything. My doctor tried the THC, the really expensive, and it made me loony. So I can't take it. I'm not against the marijuana use, but I am against people selling drugs next to a school and a church down the street. There are kids that shouldn't be on that stuff. It leads to other drugs, we know that. But the thing that we're fighting here is the fact that they're trying to sell marijuana next door, and I think that's wrong. My wife is against it. I wish I would have brought her. She would have explained to you, yeah, there is medical use for marijuana, but not next to a kid's school. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Going up all the way in the back, the lady in the blue.
Dawn Katnack.
Okay, I have to swear you in, please. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth and nothing but the truth on the penalty of law?
Yes.
All right, go ahead. Thank you.
My name again is Dawn Katnack. I am a teacher at New America School and have been a teacher there since 2012. Our students range in ages from 14 to 22. Pre-pandemic, we would take students up to any age if they had not yet gotten their high school diploma. Our target population is at-risk students. They come to New America because for some reason or other, they did not or were unable to be successful in a regular high school. We have 12 teachers there. We work with them. We try to convince them of the importance of education, of the importance of getting their high school diploma. We're pretty successful. Sometimes we have kids that drop out. We have kids that hit a stumbling block. One of our problems is drugs. Maybe they get taken away by the police because of drugs, not necessarily taken away at our school, but drugs are a problem. Because our oldest students can be up to 23 years old, maybe they can find a retailer who sells drugs and they can get the drugs from them. That is our big concern at our school. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Anyone else on this side? Wait a minute. I'll come back to you.
Susie Kimball. I'm the president of the Governing Council at New America School.
Okay, let me swear you in then, please. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth and nothing but the truth on the penalty of law?
Yes.
All right, go ahead.
First, I want to clarify that Mr. Buck is wrong. The DLCP employee who sits on our board has not supplied us with any economic numbers.
Excuse me, but just make sure you're talking to the microphone
Yes,
so the recorder can get your
The
information.
DLCP employee who sits on our school board has not provided us with any economic indicators, any numbers, any inside information from Farm True or from Mesilla Valley Pharmacy. That's an outright lie. And I just want you to know, when we have talked about Farm True and the Mesilla Valley Pharmacy, we talked in the very beginning of the year. They came and visited with us and talked to us about building their pharmacy and then said, we're considering going into the further realm. What would y'all think about that? And we told them, as a school, we would be opposed. We didn't want that so close to our school. And they said, we understand, we will probably still pursue it. We said, we understand, we will probably still oppose it. It's been cordial all along. There's been no conflict. We haven't been mean to them. Our staff, our students go into that pharmacy on a regular basis. Half of us have gotten our vaccinations at that pharmacy. We enjoy that pharmacy. We appreciate that pharmacy. We just believe that the variance rule was put into place for safety. So for y'all to just disregard it and say, that doesn't mean anything, we'll go ahead and do it with a zero distance. That's wrong. And you're setting a precedent. You really are. And it is a slippery slope, because then the next time the next person comes and says, we're only 87 feet apart, they're going to say, you gave it to them and they were 0 feet apart. And that's what you're starting. And that's what's not good. We're not opposed to marijuana. We're not opposed to being sold. We just don't want it sold at our back door. That's the problem we see. As Ms. Katnack said, many of our students are high risk, which means they have a history of not making good decisions. So if they see someone in the parking lot that's likely to help them get marijuana drugs, marijuana products, they're going to try it. It's going to increase security requirements at our school. It's going to increase monitoring by our teachers. We already have to monitor our students. And if a student walks in and we know they have drugs on them, we call the police. We don't fiddle around. We call the police. We can't have that on our campus. So to be so close to us puts us in a bad way. And they knew when they came that we were going to protest it. And I just want you to know that we're still friendly with them. We still like that pharmacy. We still appreciate it. And we want them to stay in the area. And as you talked about Las Cruces being kind of run down, when we built New America School, we bought the old Las Cruces furniture building that had been empty for 40 years. It had molds, it had dirt, it had crap. We built it and turned it into a beautiful building. So for y'all not to respect us as an anchor on the downtown area is really detrimental to what we do. We brightened up that end of the street. Other businesses came because of us. We weren't the only driver, but we really were a driver, and that building was an eyesore. So I just want y'all to keep that in mind, that we are an important part, and I think if you had children that went to that school, you wouldn't want pot being sold next door either.
All right, thank you. Before, ma'am, there's a gentleman.
Could I make a comment real quick? Super quick?
All right.
Oh, no, Commissioner Gordon, could I make a comment real quick? And I understand that, you know, there's a lot of emotions involved with this, but if we could please refer to this as cannabis or the appropriate term, calling it marijuana or marijuana pot is not helpful. So again, it's not an attack on anybody that has spoken. I just want to make that clear.
All right, thank you. This gentleman here, and then we'll go back up to you right after that.
So I can leave,
Oh,
just with the baby.
excuse me, sir, let her go. She has that little child.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Could you please state your name?
Sure, my name is Nicole Fox.
All right, do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth and nothing but the truth on no penalty of law and the same for that person?
I do. My name is Nicole Fox. I'm a technical writer in the cannabis industry. I do licensing, standard operating procedures, business plans, and general consultation. Ironically, some of the people who stood up and opposed before me are my former colleagues, as I worked in the behavioral health field for 13 years at Families and Youth Incorporated. I also was the board president of Las Montañas Charter High School, who serves a similar population as New America's. I just want to make a few comments. I'll try to be as pointed as I can. It's a little distracting holding a baby, having to comment. I want to say, first of all, that discussing the fact that cannabis could potentially be addicting for youth is practically a null point in this situation where opiates are also sold right next door to the school, and the opiate problem that we have here in Doña County and basically nationwide is much more unsettling than any discussion we could have about the negative effects of cannabis. Secondly, I understand the school's concern. However, if they have a student who is in possession of marijuana and they are 21 or older, the police cannot be called on them because it is now legal here in the state of New Mexico. Thirdly, in order to receive a state license to be a retail establishment for cannabis, businesses have to go through some pretty strict compliance, including security systems with cameras that are monitored by cell phone and on site and can be monitored at any time by the Cannabis Control Division and Regulation and Licensing Division. Many cannabis businesses choose to also have human security in addition to the really intense security systems they're required to have. The other point that I want to speak on is the economic development point and the establishment of potentially skilled jobs in the field of cannabis. When they're talking about mixing compounds and retailing cannabis, this is not a line of work that is fulfilled by someone without special credentials, not just a pharmacist, but also people who are preparing compounds or infusions or extractions of cannabis very likely hold some kind of degree like a chemical engineering degree. So the positions that they talk about that will be created are not minimum wage retail positions. These are highly skilled positions that will contribute to the expansion of our economy. So those are just a few points I wanted to make. There's a lot of misinformation, especially when we continue to reinforce the stigmatization of cannabis by calling it by calling it marijuana and or comparing it to drugs. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Yes, sir.
That's a tough act to follow. May I borrow your beautiful baby? Be from a different perspective at the baby house.
We're family friendly in the cannabis industry too. I have two other 20-year-old kids.
You please state your name.
Jerry Thompson.
All right. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth and nothing but the truth under penalty of law?
Yes, sir.
Go ahead.
I come to you from a little bit different perspective than the other folks in here about cannabis. Are there any Vietnam veterans up on this
You're a Vietnam veteran. I won't put you on the spot, sir, but I'm sure you remember the Vietnam War, especially the combat troops, the infantrymen, and all the problems we had with drugs in Vietnam. We had soldiers committing, yes, sir. You going to say something?
Nicholas, for the record, I remember it very clearly, sir.
So we had fratricide going on. We had soldiers killing soldiers. We had some serious drug problems. I'm a former United States Army soldier. The United States Army went through some real growing pains after the Vietnam War. One of those growing pains was recognizing the dangers of drug abuse of these kind of drugs, cannabis, okay, not medical marijuana, I'm sorry, medical cannabis, but cannabis among the soldiers. As a commander in the United States Army, I chaptered out several soldiers for drug-related offenses. And I will tell you, when soldiers went to the field or went on combat operations or got deployed, they did not have it. It was not there. Alcohol wasn't there. General Order Number 1 was the rule. Those soldiers did fine. I was with Specialist Granberry. I was a scout platoon leader. I had Specialist Granberry. He became a hero. Came back to Garrison, came back to the States. 1 month later, Specialist Granberry was chaptered out of the Army for drugs. I will tell you, it is a problem with drugs in the military. So I'm here talking about, we've had some people come up to talk about how great cannabis is, and I'm sure it's got some medical benefits. But I will tell you from firsthand experience, the United States Army is a much better fighting force now because we got rid of the drug problem in the United States Army we had in Vietnam. Thank you for your service, sir. That's all I've got.
All right, thank you. Anyone else on this side? All right, then we'll go to the other side, go towards the back. Lady right there, yes? Please state your name.
Janet Collins.
All right, let me swear you in, please. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth and nothing but the truth under penalty of law?
I do.
Go ahead, thank you.
Okay. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I have things written down because I forget. My name is Janet Collins. I am not a parent at New America School, but I am a concerned citizen. I've never seen anything like this come up where either a bar or this type of business would be butted up to a school. When I heard of this variance request, I started looking into the regulations set forth in the New Mexico Cannabis Control Division and saw there were a few operational requirements for cannabis establishments. It said that New Mexico state law set the 300-foot rule. Article 2C cannabis regulation states a local jurisdiction may adopt time, place, and manner rules that do not conflict with the Cannabis Regulation Act or the D. Johnson Clean Indoor Act. Although the minimum distance can't be set or forced more than the 300 feet, if you start cutting it down, at some point, you're not going to be able to say no. You have to go back to the 300 feet. Like you said, it is a slippery slope. Once you start cutting it down, there's no turning back. These children are our future. So what we're looking at is a business worried about monetary problems to our future. I don't point fingers because I was there. I feel sorry for the lady back here whose daughter is having to be under all of that. I went through that. I just didn't do the cannabis. I found out aspartame. It was causing me migraines. To this day, I have migraines, regular headaches every day. Guess what? I've got sleep apnea. So now I'm having to use a mask every night and look like Darth Vader. But I'm waking up refreshed with energy. I don't want kids to go through everything I did. And it does lead to that. Even if they say it's not addicting, what used to be a good for me, one joint, it wasn't enough. The high wasn't there. Then it was more and more. If it's medical use, you have the card, that's different. I'm not saying don't have these businesses. Don't have them up against a school. Don't knock down that 300-foot law that's there, set there for the safety of children, daycares, even churches. Take all this into consideration, please. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Anyone else on this side? Yes, young lady?
Salma Tamez.
All right. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth and nothing but the truth on the penalty of law?
Yes.
All right, go ahead.
So my name is Salma Tamez, and I have had the pleasure of working for Mesilla Valley Pharmacy and their owners for a little over half a year now. I can attest that what they're trying to do, they are not trying to go over any, break any laws or anything. I'm a little nervous, so I'm sorry, I'm looking at my phone. While there is concern from the parents here at the New Americas School, this concern wasn't raised for controlled substances, where we dispense opiates, and 92,000 people in 2020 died of opioid overdoses. This cannabis is another way for people to manage their pain and have a better quality of life. I've known of several people who have been able to get off of opioids that they weren't able to work, weren't able to do anything, and medical cannabis saved their life. What better people to operate a dispensary than pharmacists? They go through 4 years of pharmacy school. They get educated on the pharmacodynamics and pharmacokinetics of medicine and how it interacts in your body. There's a stigma with cannabis, and people maybe aren't comfortable asking their doctor about the effects on their medications. Pharmacists like Joaquin and the other owners are there to be able to answer their questions, to be able to help their patients understand if the medications that they're currently taking are they gonna affect it more with cannabis. This is a really safe option for people. No other dispensary in town can offer it. As well, another concern, as Commissioner Kaiser, where it is a slippery slope, but are we gonna prevent if we don't do it, someone else more than 300 feet could do it? Are they gonna say no because there's still a school involved? The kids here can walk, they do have access to cars, they can drive. What's to stop them to driving to another dispensary and getting cannabis there? What is the difference? There is 3 bars in the vicinity, or 4, Brad, Retrograde, and Little Toad. There's alcohol there. There's a lot of things. We have the security measures here to prevent students accessing the cannabis. Thank you for your time.
All right, thank you. Is there anyone else? Yes, ma'am.
My name is Christina Forbush.
All right, let me swear you in. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to receive is the truth and nothing but, to give rather, is the truth and nothing but the truth on the penalty of law?
Yes.
Thank you, go ahead.
So I've been sitting here listening to everybody, and everybody has extremely valid points. However, what I would like to point out is it's all about the education of what we teach our children. Of what we need to teach our children. And what a better place than at this school. Yes, they're high risk, and it could be potentially hazardous. However, it's all about educating and telling them, teaching them not to do this, not to do that. And this should be part of it, I think, and that goes along the ways of most of this cannabis uses. The education is where we need to focus on and teaching our children and our communities what we need to do and what is correct. I think that needs to be a little bit more documented and looked into. If we can have some sort of a community outreach, some sort of a curriculum addendum, something, but we need to be able, education is where it starts, and I think that's where it needs to be. And thank you.
All right, thank you. Is there anyone else who cares to speak? Yes, sir. All right. I don't know, I'm going to ask you. You've already spoken on behalf of the applicant. What is it that you'd like to add other than what you've already said?
I would like to invite a doctor down from the staff, but can I make a closing argument?
All right, well, let me just see if there's anyone else has something to say, and then they can raise their hand. We'll give them the same amount of time.
Okay.
Yes, sir. All right.
With great intentions, I promise.
Just for the record, please state your name.
Zachary Flores.
All right, since we've already sworn you in, I don't think it's necessary.
All right, cool. I just kind of wanted to start by saying that I grew up with Joaquin. He's one of the owners of Farm True and of Mesilla Valley Pharmacy. We grew up since 6th grade, middle school together, making all the same choices, hanging out, doing everything we could together. He went to school. He went to NMSU. He took advantage of the lottery scholarship, which we provide now to everybody. Thank you for New Mexico, right? And he stayed. He stayed in New Mexico. He used his degree in New Mexico, not just New Mexico, he used his degree downtown, right? This revitalization. So if you want to talk about kids, with potentially troubled past, he didn't really get in trouble. You probably wouldn't be able to find something, mine, but not his. So someone like him, right? I'd like to point to his integrity. I know him personally very well, right? So as a person, you probably won't find a better guy. And I've served as well. Thank you for your service. I've gone to Afghanistan twice. So I know how to judge the character of a person. And he has, from the moment we've met and became our friendship, he was a very, very respectable, very high integrity type person, right? And then to come back to New Mexico and continue business, it is business, right? A school is business, right? So we're talking about this school as if it's not the full intention of this charter school is to get children. You keep using this word children. They're adults, they're adolescent. They're older than 14 years old. So we're getting these teenagers and pushing them into places that if you say, oh, all of this cannabis use or everything that we're looking at right now is not good for this. We're in a new New Mexico. We're in a new U.S., right? So it's legalized, and that's not going anywhere. And if you talk about a slippery slope, well, the variance, as a real estate professional, I know that there is a variance. A variance means a variance, right? You don't have to give it to everybody. But I implore you to give it to these gentlemen. Why? Because they have those protocols in place to prevent anyone from taking advantage of it. Right? What is to stop one of these kids from going to one of the vagrants that stay on the downtown strip? We talk about it's in our house. We have a lot of ne'er-do-wells or whatever on this downtown strip. What's to stop those guys from getting it from somewhere else and giving it to these kids? There's nothing really stopping them, right? But these gentlemen have controls in place to prevent anything from their store from them to a student at this school, right? And so I'd like to close and say these gentlemen are high integrity people. And I do implore you to look at their character in granting a variance, not to look at the struggles between marijuana or cannabis and students, right? Students being 14, 15, 16-year-olds. We're looking at variance between this business and that 300-foot rule with all of these measures already put into place for their opiates, for Adderall, for Xanax. It's already there. So I would implore you guys to grant the variance one time, because just as easily as they can move theirs, New America, which if you look at that, New America covers quite a bit. And you can say, why don't they just move?
Mr. Chairman, may I interrupt?
Sorry.
Could you wrap up, please, sir?
Yeah.
We don't want to give you unfair advantage to the other speakers.
I understand. There was a lot to be said about emotions, and I wanted to bring it back to the business aspect. This variance should be granted because these businessmen have it in place. They're not going to sell to minors. There's no way that these guys are going to sell to minors. So I just want you to know, high integrity individuals.
Your request of having someone speak now, are they the applicant?
Yes, this is one of the business partners.
All right. Is it just one of them which wishes to speak? All right. How many are going to talk? Just the one?
Just him, and I'd like to make a closing argument and statement.
Mr. Chairman, if I may. We have heard from a number of the audience and the public on this issue. It's about a distancing variance. It's not really about business operations. It's not about other issues. And so if your comments are about the distance variation, then we'd be pleased to hear them. But otherwise, I think we probably have had a fair presentation for the other.
Trey Howard.
All right, then I'll allow you the same 3 minutes. Let me swear you in. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth and nothing but the truth under penalty of law?
Yes, sir.
Go ahead.
Ladies and gentlemen of the council and of the audience, we appreciate everyone in attendance, even those opposing said ruling. Now, I will take this back to the 300-foot variance, as you said, sir, but I will focus on the fact that it is a distance variance. And there's been a lot of talk this evening about a slippery slope. Okay, everyone loves that word. It's a slippery slope. And I understand the precarious predicament that you, ladies and gentlemen, are in here trying to make this call. But what y'all need to realize is that we are not your run-of-the-mill dispensary, fly-by-night Californian people that come in and throw up a dispensary because we're April 1st now. We are local doctors of pharmacy and drug use. We went to college here in New Mexico for nearly 8 years studying drug safety and controlled substance use to try to better our state. This is not your typical variance in the sense that, sorry if I'm at a loss for words. We're not just anybody. We are drug professionals. We are doctors of pharmacy here to protect our community. We are the ones that take care of your parents, grandparents, children. We are not here to put anyone in danger or at risk. We are only here to provide a higher level of service for a new industry in our state. We do not intend to do anything but uplift the cannabis industry by applying the same standards of controlled substance use, monitoring, and reconciliation that we already do every day for hundreds of patients in our community to cannabis. This is not a typical dispensary to walk in, grab your pot, and get out. This is an opportunity for higher level health care. Sorry about that, by the way. This is an opportunity for higher level health care, better monitoring of a brand new industry within our state, and the ability to allow trained drug professionals to take on something that is potentially one of the best things to happen for New Mexico in a long time. So I thank you guys so much for the opportunity to talk. I'm sorry that I got off a little bit from the 300-foot variance. I hope you can forgive me. And you ladies and gentlemen have a good evening.
All right, thank you. With that, I think I'd like to come back to the commission. If anybody has any comments or questions or things they'd like to say at this point. Commissioner Vega?
Just a quick question. So I think it's for staff. Can a school be established within, so we've said how you can't establish an alcohol or a THC dispensary within 300 feet of a school. Could a school be established if they decided to push the variance?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Vega, the ordinance is, and Catherine, correct me if I'm wrong, but the ordinance is very clear in that it's a one-way street. However, in the past, I can tell you that we've applied it in two ways. It didn't deal with cannabis and it didn't deal with a school, but nonetheless, there were some restrictions back in the day that were typically applied one-sided, and we made sure that they were applied in both directions. So both uses met with the same criteria, and I would assume, even though it's written in a single direction, we'd have to take into consideration the alternative.
Commissioner Guerrero?
Yeah, I just I wanted to make a couple quick comments. I'll try to be quick because it's getting late. But you know, I just want to just reinforce that this is a tough choice for us to make because it's true. Whatever we decide may set precedents for other businesses in the future. And I just want to thank everybody for being here, giving your comments. I love public participation. I wish this was public participation when the pharmacy first opened. Selling opiates and prescribed medications. There's all, as it's been pointed, there's also 3 bars just up the street, 4 bars around the corner from here, all to which students, because it's not kids in the school, students could have access to. I also just want to say real quick, we know that this industry is here. It's legal in New Mexico. It's not going anywhere. I mean, this is an extremely professional crew. And, just, want to thank them as well for coming. But, just want to remind you all that I actually really was moved by the lady that gave the comment about education, because it's true. A lot of education when it comes to alcohol and cannabis or other drugs starts at home. Society can definitely pitch in, but it starts at home as well. So, this is a good opportunity for parents to get more involved in the life of their children as well, if they're so concerned. So, just wanted to just share those comments.
I'd like to make one more quick comment. Forgive me for speaking again. As I've sat here and listened to both sides of this proposal, I've also been sitting here looking at this PowerPoint that's been sitting here for about over 45 minutes. And as I stated earlier, I've been living downtown for almost 24 years, and I keep focusing on Central Elementary School. My daughter attended Central Elementary School. I walked her to Central Elementary School. And I think about downtown and the growth that has occurred. But we also have to remember that this is still part of a neighborhood, that there are homes and there are families there. There are kids that will be walked to school. Because there was a point, those of you who've been here a long time remember, they were going to close Central Elementary School, and the parents and families in the community fought to keep Central Elementary School open. And so as I look at the New America School, and the location of this, of the Farm True proposal, it comes back to how difficult this decision is going to be based on the fact that there is a buffer that is in place. It is part of the city code and for the 300 feet. And looking at Central Elementary School, if we were to have a variance of 0 beside this school, at what point where this no longer becomes a community of families along with businesses, it just strictly becomes a downtown of businesses. And I just think it's important that we keep that in perspective when we think about what's happening downtown, because there are families and people like me who still live downtown as part of our community. It's where we live, it's where we attend church, it's where we go to school, and where we shop. Like I said, it's a difficult decision that needs to be made, but it's also got to look at the fact that downtown is still about families, too.
All right. Commissioner Kaiser.
Just one question, point of clarification. So is this medicinal use only, or is there a recreational component here? In other words, how would you get access to this as a customer? Do you have to have some sort of prescription?
Can the applicant can answer that question, I guess? I think apparently he's asking you whether or not you need a cannabis medicine certificate or card from the state.
With this particular business, no. With a proper ID of an age marker of over 21 by statute recognized by the state of New Mexico under cannabis and CCD, you will not be allowed to access cannabis without an earmark of 21 years or older or a medicinal card issued by a physician.
Okay, so you don't have to have a prescription from a doctor to buy?
No, and that is the case for all retailers.
Thank you. A quick question for staff. Going back to just the pharmacy as it currently stands, is that an allowed use by right here, or are there any restrictions based on the fact that they are selling controlled substances, narcotics? I mean, are there any regulations that would apply to them in this particular situation without the cannabis component?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Kaiser, pharmacy is an allowed use in this particular zoning district. Even the component that they speak to as it relates to compounding CBD, that's an acceptable use.
And no setbacks are required from the school, assuming?
That's correct. No criteria that would, similar to what we're hearing tonight anyway.
Thank you. I don't have any further questions other than this is hard.
If there's no one else, let me just advise everyone here that before the commission votes, if we vote to deny the applicant, then the applicant has the right to go before City Council and appeal our decision. So this is not the end of it as far as they're concerned. If we vote to approve, then the school or the general public or whoever wishes can also go to City Council and appeal our decision. I would suggest that if whichever way this goes, whichever party wants to do whatever they're going to do, is they contact community development and get the proper protocol for doing this appeal, if that is what you wish to do. So other than that, I think, are we ready for a vote? All right, then I need a motion.
I'll make a motion. I'm not sure I'm not sure what the motion is. Just for a vote to deny, or what are we? Oh, okay, perfect. So I make the motion to approve the vote.
I'll second.
Board Member Kaiser?
I vote no, based on staff's recommendation, and the fact that looking at this map presented tonight, I think there's plenty of opportunity within the downtown to establish such a business and come in fully compliant with the setback requirements.
Board Member Smith?
I vote no, based on staff recommendation. Although there is flexibility built into this variance request for a buffer, I believe that a zero deviation actually just nearly abolishes, the standard of a 300-foot buffer for the safety of, just children, whether it's the New America School or whether it's Central Elementary School.
Board Member Bennett.
I vote no. Based on staff recommendation, a 100% buffer variance is too excessive and sets a bad precedence.
Board Member Vega.
I also vote no. This is, it is challenging because you are a local business and you're awesome, but and I think there's still so much stigma tied to cannabis. But that being said, to share a wall with a school, it's just too close. We wouldn't even be having this discussion if it was the elementary school, right? So that's my answer.
Board Member Guerrero.
Oh God, that's a tough one. I will vote no, but I just want to say that, we should be holding the same standard for other controlled substances as well, not just cannabis. So moving forward, and I know that this is not, legislation or anything, but I really hope to see the public more engaged when it's other controlled substances, not just cannabis.
Chair Gordon.
If it wasn't for the 300-foot minimum requirement, this would be a no-brainer and the applicant wouldn't be here. But I am also in a position where I think I'm going to vote no, based on our discussion this evening, and my vote is no.
Thank you. That's 6 for negative.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, I would like to suggest a recess for 10 minutes and reconvene at 9:10.
Can we get everybody back in their seats, please? Everyone is here. All right, let's resume. It is now 9:10 or so.
Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, Vincent Menegas, interim planner, presenting the third and final of my cases involving 801 East Farney Lane. It is a rezoning application that was submitted to staff. Current zoning of the property is R3 and C3 conditional, and they're seeking to rezone it to straight R3. The current conditions that are in play here with this application is the property is located at 801 East Farney Lane. It is at the intersection basically of three roadways: El Paseo Road, Farney Lane on the south, El Paseo Road is on the west, and West Park Drive is on the east. The property as presented in our assessor's records is plus or minus 4.35 acres. It is an underutilized parcel. There is a single-family home on the parcel, but because of its acreage and because of the use, it is considered underutilized. And as indicated pursuant to the zoning, it does have a pancake zone, what staff considers to be pancake zoning of R3, C3C. The R3 is our multi-dwelling medium-density residential district in our code, and the C3 is our commercial high-intensity. The C at the end of this grouping of zoning districts means conditional. Conditions as per ordinance 2767 stipulate that there's several conditions actually, but they stipulate that the residential units are to be capped at 60 for the property when development takes place. There's also restrictions on alcohol sales and hours of operation for commercial establishments that might locate on the property. And there's also a number of prohibited non-residential uses that are, again, outlined in this ordinance 2767. The property is within the urban neighborhood place type pursuant to our comprehensive plan, and it's also subject to the El Paseo Corridor Community Blueprint, which established some closer focus on attempting to develop properties along El Paseo. The applicant's request helps pave the way to facilitate the proposed development of the property. They're looking to create or develop a senior apartment complex. That issue is not part of this request, but I'm informing you of what they've come forward with. The R3 zoning that they seek pursuant to this request helps pave the way for that development. And I think in your packets I had stipulated that there's R3 zoning allows for 15 dwelling units per acre. That is incorrect. It should be 20 dwelling units per acre. But again, there is a cap of that 60 that is still in play today. The R3 zoning district allows a building height of 35 feet, and the C3 district allows 60 feet. And there's currently no cap that was established pursuant to that ordinance previously mentioned. So here's the zoning of the property. The property is outlined or bordered in red here. You have West Park Drive along the east side, Farney Lane on the south, and El Paseo Road on the west side. You have a good percentage of acreage on the west side of El Paseo Road that's currently R1A zoning. A lot of single-family dwelling development occurs in this location. You also have a PUD south of the property. It too is single-family in nature in large part. And the school is further northwest, Las Cruces High School, I should say. You have immediately north of the subject property a church and some additional Las Cruces High School facilities thereafter further north. The park there is a park that sits right here along West Park Drive and Farney Lane, and further east of that is some commercial property that has various commercial type uses, both restaurant and retail, etc. This is the aerial of that property. Again, property outlined in red. Church is again directly north, but you can see the distribution of land uses taking place. What you don't see is further south of the subject property and where it's cut off on this aerial is you start getting into other zones. There's an O2 zone, which is our office zone, and you start getting to other development that is apartment complexes, things of that nature as you get closer to the university. So the proposal that was brought before us, again, is to rezone the R3 C3C property to straight R3. R3, again, multi-dwelling medium intensity. And the conditions that I previously stipulated would be removed. There would be no conditions unless your actions tonight recommended that the conditions be placed, which would then go to City Council for consideration. But as it's presented this evening, they're looking to eliminate the conditions, which basically eliminates any of the commercial aspects associated with the property. This again facilitates the senior apartment complex that the developer is seeking to build on the property. And it was originally, that aspect of the proposal was originally going to be brought simultaneously as an infill development proposal. But because of some site design related issues, they're working with staff. We're still trying to resolve some of those issues. It was decided to bring forward the zoning aspect, which would have to be dealt with anyway, and move on from there. The Elevate Las Cruces and El Paseo corridor community blueprints, the provisions that are provided in there, the policies, goals, and focus that both documents present, lend support for the R3 zone change request. So associated with this proposal, it should be noted that the applicant was informed of a need to do some early notification pursuant to the zoning code, and they did take that initiative. They notified property owners and neighborhood associations within the area as outlined in the zoning code. And I believe it was in January that the meeting with the neighborhood took place. They informed the neighborhood and the associations of their intentions, both with the zoning and with the actual development. And from the information obtained from the applicant, there was substantial neighborhood support for what they were seeking to do. One of the key things staff feels and that came from that endeavor is the potential removal of the commercial zoning and the land uses that might eventually coincide with the commercial aspect of the zoning of the property. That was long held to be problematic with this site. So again, this isn't part of tonight's package for consideration, but nonetheless, this was the site plan that they had brought forward. Looking at this site plan, they were proposing 74 units, apartment units in this building. It was a 3-story building. being proposed. And you had some duplex units. There are 3 duplex units here that made up the remaining 6 for a total of 80 units. You had some garage, individual garages that could be leased by the residents eventually in the facility, and garages here, and also on the opposite side along West Park Drive here and here. Access that was discussed and vetted with staff, not only community development staff, but transportation staff was going to be located here to avoid any conflicts with the exit point or entrance point to that residential subdivision on the south. What you see here in a dashed line was a proposed basically pedestrian access to the park facility. And so they tried to incorporate various elements of, again, our comprehensive plan and the El Paseo corridor plan or blueprint into their design. Couple of photos. Again, this is at the corner of Farney Lane and El Paseo. This is that single-family home that currently sits on the property. It is being utilized, at least it's my understanding it's still utilized, but it will be demolished if approval goes forward and in order to accommodate the intended development. This is a photo that's looking west at the more or less intersection of West Park Drive and Farney, and another one from a different angle looking northwest, again, viewing that home and some of the property to the right of it. In terms of analysis, staff analysis, there were no health, safety, or welfare issues that were identified by staff. Staff felt that the proposed zoning, or zone change, I should say, provided the necessary compatibility with existing uses and of course, the neighborhood, surrounding neighborhood. The property is within the urban place type as per our comprehensive plan and is subject to, of course, the El Paseo blueprint. The comp plan, as we know now, after many cases being vetted before you, encourages mixed use. And in this case, the urban place type encourages medium to high residential densities, attainable housing and a variety of housing styles, while the blueprint encourages higher density along the corridor and attainable housing within the same development. All these factors that are summarized in terms of the comprehensive plan and the blueprint were elements that were introduced not only with the zoning, but with the proposed development that had been presented to staff. Public notice and input. The case was noticed as per code. Staff received a couple of emails. Those have been provided to you. One was in support of the proposal, and there was one that was proposing a condition. And I think in looking at that email, they were proposing limiting the height to 25 feet. Please keep in mind that the R3 zone, both today and if this goes through, would allow 35 feet. So somewhat of an element or issue to deal with there. The early notification meeting I touched on already, that was 1/18/22. Again, some of the concerns at that meeting, which were mitigated, talking about traffic impacts and how the offset and access would help alleviate some of those concerns. But it was also mentioned that there would be a good transition in terms of land use for this property and its intended development in terms of some of the more dense or more commercialized properties further north. Oops. So staff's recommendation, we're recommending approval based on the findings. They are provided in your packet. Be advised that again, the neighborhood showed substantial support at that neighborhood meeting. The zone change facilitates the applicant's proposal and is found to be compatible with the surrounding neighborhood. It is an infill parcel and subject to infill criteria if they so deem it necessary. And so in this case, by facilitating the zone change and ultimately any development proposal via the IDP process, we are changing virtually what consists of an inactive parcel to a very active parcel should this come to fruition. The compliance with the blueprint and our comprehensive plan has been illustrated, and so I just wanted to reiterate there's consistency in that regard. And several of the goals obviously are in support of the request. It's also consistent with the purpose intent of the Las Cruces zoning code and criteria for decisions in the municipal code. Your options this evening are to vote yes and approve the request that has been brought to you this evening. You can vote no and deny. Please be aware that new findings would be necessary. And you could vote yes with conditions and vote to table. And Mr. Chairman, that concludes staff's presentation. I know the applicant's representative are in attendance and they would like to say a few words, and they'd be here to answer any questions you might have also.
I have a question. Just something that was stated in the packet of your summary of recommendation. It says that the owner developer is proposing a senior apartment complex. Is this going to be an over 55 community? Is it?
My understanding in reading the documentation provided, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, is that it would be an age-restricted development, so specifically targeting senior.
Is there like an age minimum that you could go there, like 60, 65?
Applicant will respond to that.
Okay. Does anybody else have any questions to staff? Yes?
I'll wait until the applicant.
Okay, then we can hear from the applicant. He can answer my question.
Mr. Chairman, my name's Tom Mantrack.
All right. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth and nothing but the truth under penalty of law?
I do.
Go ahead. Thank you.
Thank you. I will be as brief as I can possibly be and try to stick with the zoning, but I think there's an important component that needs to be layered into that discussion. Basically, what we have is a 4.2, 4.3 acre parcel that is split zoned. We could build a 60-unit family apartment complex that had 4 or 5 bedroom apartments and about 10,000 square feet of retail type use on this site. That's the ordinance that was passed several years ago. What we're proposing to do, and let me introduce Ron Bohannon with the Tierra West from Albuquerque as our engineer and land use consultant, so technical questions he can answer. But what we're proposing to do is to give back, if you will, the more intense use of the 10,000 square feet of retail roughly, and develop an 80-unit senior apartment complex which would fit within the R3 density, so there's no density variance that we're asking for. Importantly, this apartment community will be age restricted, 62 and older, and will be income and rent restricted because some of the financing package will go through New Mexico Mortgage Finance Authority. As I said, the age is 62 and older, and based on the current income and rent numbers, and we'll be renting to individuals and couples. Incomes will range from about $9,500 per year to about $40,000 per year. The one-bedroom rents are, believe me when I say this, $307 a month to about $800 a month. The two-bedroom rents are about $370 a month to about $980. The land use restriction, just like when a subdivision comes in and you put CC&Rs on a subdivision, there will be recorded covenants against this property which say you must rent to your age group for a period of 40 years and you must rent to this income group for a period of 40 years. And that document is recorded ahead of our loan documents, so if we don't do it right, we're in trouble. So it's very important as you're looking at this zoning request to, even though the intended use is not before you right now, that is the only use we will put the property to, and there will be restrictions in place between us, probably the city of Las Cruces, because we have requested some money, and Natalie is here to maybe answer a question if you have one. But there will be recordable, foreclosable documents between our company and New Mexico Mortgage Finance Authority that requires us to do exactly what I'm telling you tonight. We have always done neighborhood outreach. When we started doing this a lot of years ago, 32 years ago, very few jurisdictions required neighborhood, pre-application neighborhood meetings. We have always done that. The meeting we had at Las Cruces High School was not very well attended because it was cold and windy and rainy that night, but we had a number of people who attended via Zoom, and very good questions were asked. We did a follow-up letter summarizing the meeting. When the application was submitted the first part of February, we mailed the application with another summary to all of the neighbors. When the staff report came in, we mailed the staff report and another summary to all the neighbors. What I did in the letter that included the staff report, as I said, you know, if you like what we're doing, would you please let the city know? And so I got 2 or 3 emails that says, well, we don't like what you're doing, and we just want it to be vacant land forever. That's the way this business goes sometimes. We did have a follow-up Zoom meeting last night with 5 neighbors, Ron? I think 5 neighbors. A couple of them were the ones that said, we don't like what you're doing, and they were okay by the end of the meeting, and you got a positive note, I think, today from one of them. We also spent about an hour this afternoon with representatives of the church who had not been able to come to any of the previous meetings. It was very thoughtful, and, you know, we're going to be neighbors, and, you know, tell us about your fence, and, you know, we have a community garden. Are you going to have a community garden? It was very interactive and very positive, and the 2 gentlemen we met with cannot be here tonight, but they did authorize Ron and I to say that, speaking on behalf of the church, they're very supportive of what we're doing. So the zoning change is necessary to construct 80 units of senior affordable housing in Las Cruces, which will be governed by New Mexico Mortgage Finance Authority. We will be income and age restricted for 40 to 44 years. I don't remember what the number, but a long time. Staff report was very well done. I'm happy to answer any questions.
So not so much a question, but more of, I think, a comment at this point. First of all, I think the proposal in front of us is great. I think it's highly needed, especially in the El Paseo corridor. I know that's been an area of focus for the city for quite some time. I'm wondering, Vincent, if you could go back to the conceptual site plan. Yeah, that's perfect. So I know it's conceptual in nature. However, because it was in the packet and in the presentation, I feel like it's fair game for some critique here. I just want to kind of point out a couple of things, specifically from the El Paseo Corridor Community Blueprint. There's a couple of goals and actions here that I think are relevant in this particular case. Goal number 1 talks about redeveloping the El Paseo corridor as a safer and more user-friendly corridor. Goal number 4 talks about improving the aesthetic appeal of the corridor and fostering a sense of place or community identity along the corridor. And number 6, goal number 6 says support active living and healthy community design through appropriate guidelines and regulations for the planning area. We can then get into the actions. There is one action that is design El Paseo Road as a complete street, and also one in here that talks about urban design, architectural standards that improve the aesthetics and user appeal of the street. So I say all of that because what I'm seeing here, this is still more of the same car-centric design. I'll even go to page 6 of the El Paseo corridor, and I will quote a short paragraph here that says, "The following is a composite of visualization sketches and images that were part of the public visioning process, picturing El Paseo. The sketches were conceptualized and drawn by Las Cruces residents. The images are samples of the preferences shown by Las Cruces residents during the visual preference survey and some sort of photo voice exercise. The graphic of a complete street cross-section is an example of how the mixed-use corridor may be configured." There's a series of images on this page, and none of them have parking lots that are visible from the street frontage. So I would just encourage staff and you, the applicant, to seriously consider doing some rethinking about bringing the buildings closer to the El Paseo street frontage, as well as the road to the south. Forget the name of it off the top of my head, but essentially basically hiding all of that parking behind the building so that the frontage along El Paseo is not just a surface parking lot. Other than that, I think it's a wonderful opportunity for the corridor and for the city.
Mr. Chair, Ron Bohannon.
Okay, could you state your name, please?
Ron Bohannon.
Yes. Do you swear affirmatively to the testimony about to give is the truth and nothing but the truth on the penalty of law?
I do.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Commissioner Kaiser. So yes, we did look at that, and really...
Excuse me, Ms. Bohannon, could you raise the microphone slightly so we could hear you more clearly? Thank you.
So what we have done is we did look at your complete streets, and we have looked at that. And so what we have actually done is we place these here as well as a landscaped enhanced buffer in here with groves of trees. At these locations, we brought these duplex units up to the street to energize that and to create that walkable area through this area. So we have created that, and these area actually blocks this area right through here from the street. So you see over this and you can see the building. So you actually have that visual that you're looking at. We do have some elevations and some cross sections that we could have brought with you, and we will be working with staff to meet those guidelines through that. We have looked at Elevate Las Cruces, and so we do that. We also are looking at, the fire circulation, the drainage, the access. We vetted the access with transportation already. So we're quite a bit ways down here. We just didn't have enough time to really vet this to a point here. And so that's our next, with a successful zone change as we move forward to City Council, we plan on being back with staff to vet all of those questions to say how we can make everything yes. The other thing I'd like to point out is this is a completely gated community. So we want to prevent the students that are parking on the drive next to the park from parking inside of this area, as well as protection of the residents as well. So we've got a lot of thoughts in there, and we have been looking at the comp plans.
I appreciate that, and I'm encouraged by that, but I'll just say a garage and a wall and having to look over the parking lot, I mean, even if you can't see the physical parking lot, you're still looking at a wall, you're looking at a garage fronting the street. I mean, that's not consistent with the visioning of this urban corridor. I mean, that's essentially what the community has asked for, and with all due respect, I mean, even with what you just said right now, I mean, that's not going to cut it. I mean, I think you can bring those buildings to the frontage, activate that space. The building itself, you wouldn't necessarily have your entrances to the buildings. So essentially, you've got your wall, you've got a more active, visually appealing corridor for pedestrians, cyclists, and the like. And the way that I see it, this is still more of the same car-centric design. And I know we're not here to get into that detail, but I just want to encourage staff and you, the applicant, to push a little harder.
Okay. Mr. Chair, Commissioner, we've heard you loud and clear. Thank you. And we'll answer any other questions that may.
Is there anyone else? Is there anyone from the audience who cares to speak? If not, then I'll entertain a motion.
I make a motion to approve 8.3.
A second?
Board Member Kaiser?
Yes, based on staff recommendation, consistency with Elevate Las Cruces and the El Paseo blueprint.
Board Member Smith?
Yes, based on staff recommendation, site visit, and also meets Elevate Las Cruces.
Board Member Bennett?
Yes, based on staff recommendation, complies with purpose and intent of the code, Elevate Las Cruces, and I just think this is a great project, and I think it's a huge need for the community.
Board Member Vega?
Yes, based on site visit, and it meets the El Paseo blueprint.
Board Member Guerrero?
Yes, again, based on staff recommendations and just, the need for affordable housing. It's definitely there, and this meets it.
Chair Gordon?
I vote yes. Based on my site visit, staff recommendation, I do think that this does provide nice affordable housing. It could be a wonderful project. It does include the concept of Elevate Las Cruces. Therefore,
Approval 6. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Good evening, everyone.
for the last item on the agenda,
This is the last item on the agenda.
item 6.4, John? 8.4, I'm sorry.
8.4.
Right.
So today, I will be presenting a zone change request from an R1A single-family medium density zoning district to R2, which is multi-dwelling medium density, at a property located at 5600 McGuffey Street. The current conditions of the property is currently a vacant property that encompasses 2.68 acres, and it's located on the east side of McGuffey Street. It's currently zoned R1A, and the property encompasses they're surrounded by various zoning districts to the northwest and east, which all deal with single-family housing or multifamily housing. Then to the south of it is commercial and industrial zoning areas. A little bit of history on the property is it had been previously subdivided within the past year into 3 lots. As we can see from the zoning map here, you do see the subject property, which is highlighted by this yellow checkered item. That is the one that is in question to be requesting to be R2. As you can see across on the opposite side, there is R2 right across from it. There's C3, C2, and single-family housing. Here you can see an aerial image. The R2 is predominantly single-family housing as it was built, but it does have the option for multi-family housing. So the proposal is to request a zone change from the R1A to R2 to expand on the density and intensity of the current zoning. So the analysis, the zone change request is consistent with existing zoning in proximity to the property. The property is located along a local roadway, which is recommended for various residential land uses, meets the intent and support of Elevate Las Cruces as it's within its suburban neighborhood, meets the purpose and intent statements and P&Z's decision criteria. Reviews were sent to all relevant agencies. They all supported the zone change. Notice was sent out to surrounding properties. There was concern of traffic increases along McGuffey Street, either at the time of development and future developments across on the west side of McGuffey as well. Staff provides a recommendation of approval. The proposed zone change is consistent with the developing and zoning in the area. The subject property is located on a local roadway, and it does meet the intent and purpose of Elevate Las Cruces. So your options today are to vote yes to approve, vote no to deny, vote to amend, or vote to table.
Are there any questions by the commission? Seeing none, any comments from the audience? Seeing none, then
I believe there was a
I'm sorry?
I believe there is one. Did you have a comment? Okay, so I guess not.
No?
No.
All right, then I guess we're ready to vote. I have a motion, please.
I'll make a motion to approve this vote.
I'll second.
Board Member Kaiser.
Yes, based on staff's recommendation and consistency with Elevate Las Cruces.
Board Member Smith.
Yes, based on staff recommendation and consistent with the intent and purpose of the zoning.
Board Member Bennett.
Yes, based on staff recommendation, meets intent and purpose of Elevate Las Cruces.
Board Member Vega.
Yes, based on staff recommendation.
Board Member Guerrero.
Yes, based on staff recommendation.
Chair Gordon.
Based on my site visit, staff recommendations, Elevate Las Cruces, I also vote yes. 6-0.
Approval 6. Thank you.
Is there any discussion or commentary by commission this evening? Any comments? No? How about staff?
Mr. Chairman and Commission, no comments this evening from staff. We've had a very active evening and appreciate the hard work and due diligence that we heard tonight. We will keep you informed as they realize Las Cruces develops that you heard about earlier tonight. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, then the time is 9:48. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Seconding, or are we making the motion? Did you make a motion?
No, I'm asking someone to make a motion.
Oh, okay, I'll make a motion to adjourn.
And I second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.